Vince, do y'all have any water? Do y'all make that available? No, like a little pitcher of water?
Nope, sorry, but you're free to bring your own
Okay,
next time.
next time, I'll remember that for next time. Thank you.
Sure.
Right.
All right, let me get one more thing open here. All right, we are here in 2022cv361741. It is Chada Jimenez versus Mr. Ghouchani and Ghouchani Homes. We're here on a bench trial to sort out the damages that are owed to Mr. Jimenez, if any, based on the procedural posture of the case. We've got pretty much all morning to work through this. Don't know that we'll need all that time, but we'll see. We have Mr. Hadari here on behalf of his client, who's here as well. We have Mr. Oldham here, who is present along with Mr. Ghouchani, and we will work our way through the presentation from both sides. Even though I have struck the defendant's answer, that doesn't mean they can't present evidence, doesn't mean they can't argue. So this isn't meant to be, we only hear from Mr. Hadari about what Mr. Jimenez's damages are. There may be offsets, who knows, but I'm open to hearing all the evidence. And I believe we have at least one witness who will require an interpreter, and our interpreter is due here any moment or at 9:30. Any moment. So my thought is, Mr. Hadari, we start with whatever you want to start with. And if we've got a witness who's going to be on the stand for a while, but our interpreter shows up, I may pause that witness and we'll switch over, assuming you've got your witness or witnesses who need the interpreter's services.
I'm happy to do so, Your Honor.
Okay.
For the sequence, I think ideally, I'd like to go first, but in terms of just fixing it up, I don't think we'll take too much time with the subcontractor that required interpreter. We're happy to put them up whenever the interpreter.
Great. Okay, then why don't you start? And like I said, when I see our interpreter here, when we get to a natural break point in the questioning, we may pause Mr. Jimenez's testimony, and he'll be able to come right back on the stand for his direct exam through you after we get through the other witnesses. Do you have those other witnesses here?
I have one who's very important, I told him to be arriving at 10, but he does not need an interpreter.
Okay.
And then I believe the two other contractors, one who requires an interpreter is here behind us. The two others, they should be here.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll keep working. As long as you've got witnesses, then no one's late because we're working through your presentation. Anything else you want to get on the record before you start calling witnesses?
I will just note one thing on the record, which I'm reluctant to do so, but I will do so anyways, which is I saw that Mr. Ghouchani provided a number of exhibits on Friday afternoon. I saw at least some of those documents had not been produced in discovery, even though we had this, back and forth multiple times. So I just thought I'd stick that on the record. I don't know if it's going to matter substantively, but.
Okay. Well, I'm sure Mr. Oldham can explain why even now Mr. Ghouchani is disgorging information that wasn't disgorged earlier, and we'll work through that.
May I address that?
Yeah, because I was about to turn to you to see if there was anything we needed to discuss procedurally before Mr. Hadari called his first witness.
Well, first of all, as the court recognizes, we asked for reconsideration of an earlier decision. We get where we are. We're just you're gonna have to bear with me because I'm gonna try to put on my case. If I get out of line, Judge, it's not intentional. You can shut me down.
Okay. I'm not worried about you going nuts in here, but I will also, if we need to change your course, we'll do that.
Okay, I will state in my place that I produced these exhibits. As I had indicated to the court when all this discovery, I call it BS, but whatever, the court's made its own determination. I had produced 11.7 gigabytes of data, okay, over the course of all this. The exhibits that I put in, every one of them except maybe one email that I found in preparing for this has already been produced to these gentlemen.
Okay.
And I just want this whole.
That's good to clear that up.
We're here because of some, what I would call false allegations, but the court heard the evidence and has decided what it's decided. But I just want the court to know we never went through every one of these exhibits. Any exhibit he says I hadn't produced, I'll go to the actual production and show it to you.
Okay.
If it comes up.
Right. If it gets to that, I'm sure you can do that.
I
And
didn't know what we were gonna present, so I just put in everything that I thought we might present. All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Judge.
sounds good. Good morning.
Spanish interpreter.
Thank you for being here. So, Mr. Hadari, our interpreter is here. So my preference would be we knock out at least one witness who requires the interpreter services. And then as the others come in within reason, I'm not going to keep this interpreter here all morning. And so if the others get here too late, they're not going to be able to testify because we can't keep her locked down in here on a civil matter when there are criminal cases that need her services. Okay, sure.
Would you like a very brief opening statement, or do you want me to just jump into this?
I feel like I understand the contentions here. This is a case that has absorbed a significant amount of my time. So I think we're good just going straight into witnesses.
You're going to call John Antonio and Peter, and if you may come up to.
Yep, if he'll come and stand by the witness stand, Deputy Gordon will swear him in. And Madam Interpreter, you can sit, is it easiest for you to sit in the jury box or where do you want to be?
I think yes, in jury box.
Okay, let's start out there, and if you need to relocate, just let me know.
What was the witness's name?
He'll spell his name for the record in just a sec, because I didn't hear it either, but we're about to get it.
Thanks, Judge. Sorry.
All right.
Apologies, we're sitting on the camera.
No, take your time. We didn't tell you where to be. And let me swear you in first, so you can help this witness with the swearing in. All right, not your turn. Do you swear or affirm that you will interpret to the best of your ability from English to Spanish and Spanish to English?
I do.
Thank you, ma'am. And Deputy Gordon, if you'd swear this witness in.
Can you raise your right hand?
Levante la mano derecha, por favor.
Do you swear or affirm
Usted puede protesta
that the testimony you will give
que el testimonio que brindará
will be the truth,
será la verdad,
the whole truth,
toda la verdad,
and nothing but the truth,
y nada más que la verdad,
so help you God?
bajo la cara de Dios.
Good Lord, yeah. State and spell your name for the record.
Si puede declarar su nombre completo para que conste en actas.
Mi nombre es John Londono.
Can you spell the last name, please? Okay.
Londono. Londono. Londono.
London,
Londono.
L-O-N-D-O-N-O.
Got it. Mr. Londono, it's important that you let the interpreter translate the question from the lawyer before you answer it, even if you understand it in English.
Señor London, es importante que deje que el intérprete pueda traducir antes de que se conteste la pregunta del abogado.
And you can answer in English or Spanish, but the interpreter is going to turn that into English either way.
igual si contestan en inglés en español, de todas formas que no va a ingresar a español. Ok, esto va así.
Okay, you can sit. Mr. Haidari, when you're ready.
Sir, are you aware of Mr. Chada?
¿Usted consciente, señor Chan? De que contestan.
You have to answer out loud.
Yes, yes, it is.
And how are you familiar with Mr. Chada?
¿Cómo se conoce, señor Chan?
Señor Chada, él es el hermano de mi esposa.
He is my wife's brother.
And did you perform any services for Mr. Chada?
¿Usted le dio algún tipo de servicio, señor Chan?
Sí, varios.
Yes, several.
And where did you perform these services?
Esos servicios se le presentaron a dónde?
En la casa de él, en su propia casa.
In his own home, his house.
And could we go through and describe the services that you performed?
Si pueden entonces darle detalles de los servicios de lo que se acudió en su casa.
Ok, el primer servicio fue trabajar por dentro y ponerle el tape a los joints de las tablas de Chirac.
So the first service I did was work inside the home, and I had to tape up the joints of the sheet.
Y darle una, dos y la tercera mano de mold de la masa.
Also, I had to do the first and second shred of service taping work to the mold.
Y luego lijar todo, limpiar y dejar todo con una mano de primer. Por ese trabajo le cobré $11,000, labor y materiales.
So then I had to do the finishing, the wiping, to be able to sawed off and finish off the material. And for that labor and service, I charge about $1,100. Sort of like a question, and to me, $11,000.
I want to go through each of those things that you just described, and I want you to tell the court a little more. First thing you mentioned is that you had to work inside and you took off the joints in the sheetrock. Could you elaborate on what that entailed and why you had to do that?
Quiero repasar el uno, y me gustaría trabajar dentro de la casa, tuvo que quitar entonces la cocedera de los joints y trabajar el chip. ¿Puedes darle más detalles sobre qué?
Sí, pues lo que pasa es que la casa ya le habían puesto las tablas de Chirac. En unas partes estaba bien puesto, en otras estaba muy mal porque los joints no quedaban parejos o quedaban a un nivel totalmente mal.
So what happened is that the house had some already sheetrock on the walls, but the other part did not have sheetrock where they were leveled. So we had to level out those parts of the sheetrock.
A eso le tuve que unos pedazos, quitarlos y ponerlos, arreglarlos continuamente, poner el tape en los joints y luego hacer el trabajo del mold, de la masa, lijar y pintar y limpiar.
Because of that, I had to remove several pieces, and then I had to slowly put the joints back together to pair them up. And then I had to place a mold on it with the taping. Then I had to finish it off, paint it, and clean up.
Just for purposes of clarification, did you have to do this stuff because the prior installation was done poorly?
Propósito de aclarar, se tuvo que hacer este trabajo porque la instalación anterior que hicieron.
I would easily lead the witness. I mean, it may help because of the interpretation, but you know.
No, I hear you.
And I don't mind, but I'm just kind of.
Okay, so Mr. Haidari, two things. One, can you make that microphone be bent towards you and make sure the green light is on? I don't know what color light's on there because I can't see it.
Yes.
Green. Okay. Easy to hear you. And two, I know we're working through a language, but you don't need to translate this part. We're working through a language barrier here, but this is your witness. So the more you can ask direct questions, the better.
Absolutely.
But I'll give you some leeway only because we also don't want this to last 4 hours as you get out these basics.
Thank you, Your Honor. based on your assessment, when you came in there, was the prior work that had been performed, was it performed properly?
Basándose en estudio de evaluación del trabajo, el trabajo que se hizo anteriormente, lo hicieron adecuadamente.
Un porcentaje del chirrac quedó bien puesto. Estamos hablando de un, ¿qué? De las tablas, de lo que pusieron, no finichado, un 80%, el otro 20% lo arreglé yo, más el tape y la finichada.
So to a certain degree, 1% amount of it was fixed up. But the other boards, I had to fix about 80% of the work with the sheetrock I had to finish.
In terms of how much you were paid for the sheetrock, how much did my client pay you for that?
En cuanto terminé el cobro.
I don't understand your question. He's already said he got paid 11,000. Are you asking how much had your client already paid for the work, which would be hearsay, or you're asking how much did Mr. Londono get paid for doing the work he did, which he's already answered?
And this might be my misunderstanding, Your Honor. I thought that the 11,000 he mentioned was for the finishing, not for the other portions.
Okay, so maybe that was more work and I've misunderstood.
But let me clarify the question. How much did my client pay you total?
Ok, no solamente fue el trabajo de chirrac, fue el trabajo de interior, pintura interior y pintura exterior. Un
So it wasn't
total,
just the job of the sheetrock. I also was the services of painting the interior and the exterior.
And how much did he pay you for all of that?
Por todo el trabajo, ¿cuánto le pagué?
$52,000, 52,000.
52,000.
So the 11,000 was just for the sheetrock.
El trabajo de los 15,000 solo fue por el trabajo.
And the other 41,000 would have been for all your painting?
Yeah, interior and exterior.
Yes.
So you did three things: sheetrock, exterior paint, and interior paint.
Yes, sir.
Entonces se vino el sheetrock, la pintura por el exterior y el interior.
Así es.
That's right.
When you did the painting, was any of the painting complete or did you have to do it all?
Cuando se pintó alguna de las tablas pintadas o no pintadas.
No, una parte, primero explico lo de afuera, porque primero se pintó lo de afuera.
No, a certain part, but first I painted the exterior. The exterior was me.
Ok, afuera había un porcentaje de un 40% de la casa que ya estaba con primer y preparación.
So 40% of the home outside was already prepped and poured.
Estamos hablando de preparación, caulking, pouring, eso es preparación,
Pouring.
pouring.
Cutting. So when we're talking about preparation, we're talking about the cutting and the caulking.
A second ago, you mentioned how you had to repair some of the sheetrock. Did you have to do any repairs for any of the other scope of services you performed?
Se dijo anteriormente que tuvo que hacer la preparación del sheetrock. También tuvo que hacer otra preparación de otros servicios.
No.
No.
And so all you had to do for the painting was just complete the job. Is that correct?
Entonces, en cuanto al trabajo de la pintura, solo tuvo que completar el trabajo de la pintura.
Así es, tanto por dentro como por fuera.
That's right. Same as well as I did inside as I did outside.
And just to make sure I wrote that number right, you said that you got paid $52,000 from Mr. Chada.
Y para asegurar el señor que tuvo que pagarle 52.
$52,000 en labor y materiales incluidos.
Yes, that was $52,000 in labor and services. included with materials.
I have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Oldham, do you have any questions for Mr. Londono?
I do, Judge. I'm gonna maybe kind of go between the podium and my laptop. We're good.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Londono, hello, I'm Larry Oldham. I represent Mr. Ghouchani and Ghouchani Homes. You were talking about sheetrock work and 80% of it had to be fixed. I believe that was your testimony. Is that correct?
Por eso especificaciones que usted hace servicio de chico. Pero un 80% ya estaba completado.
Yes, así es.
Yes.
All right, so explain to me what you came into the addition to the home, correct? Came into the addition to the home.
Entonces, explíqueme, entró para hacer la adicional de la.
Sí, solo la visión, lo que estaban haciendo nuevo.
Yes, just the addition, what they were making, that was made.
From the video real quick.
So if you're using an exhibit that you've already numbered, if you'd let us know what that is, so we can work through any objections.
Judge, this is going to be exhibit 14. Wait, hold on. Okay, it's actually exhibit number 16, Judge. And it's a video file.
All right. You, if you want to play it, need to join our Zoom session so you can share your screen, and that way we can all see it.
There's a link to the Zoom that was sent?
There is, that was sent out.
Sorry.
That's all right. I can give you that info.
I'll actually have it from, I have it.
Great.
Let's see. Was it from Ms. Niles?
It was. While you're figuring that out, Mr. Hadari, another gentleman has arrived. Is that the other individual who needs interpretive services?
Yes, Your Honor.
And there are only two, so that's the universe?
There is one more as well.
Okay.
All right, so this is, again, maybe I can do it in mute.
So what you need to do, first mute your machine. I can do that for you.
I did it. Very good.
I did it. So you're muted. And there you go, sharing screen. Now, before you play your exhibit, I think you said 16, Mr. Hadari, any objection to the admission of and publication of Defense Exhibit 16?
Lack of foundation, Your Honor.
Okay. So his objection is lack of I don't know what it is. I'm guessing it's a video your client took of.
I'll show it to him. I don't have to introduce it right now. I can show him the video.
Mr. Organ, if you're willing to stipulate the authenticity of our videos, we'll do this.
I'll do that. I'll
Great.
stipulate to, yep, all the exhibits I've seen them were good.
Great. Then let's let the videos roll.
All right, and this one was produced.
Okay.
All right, so hold on.
Your Honor, Commissioner, did you want him to view?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there something on the screen?
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Can you tell me what you see? You've been to the house, obviously worked on it. Can you tell me what this video depicts?
Y en ese video se ve que las tablas de Chirac fueron puestas, pero como le digo, un 20% tuve que arreglar porque estaban en desnivel, la unión muy separada, y todo eso lo tuve que arreglar yo.
Yes, as I said before, you see the walls of the sheetrock, but at 20% of that I had to fix since they were not leveled, and they needed to be jointed and leveled.
Well, like you said, 80% that you had to fix, 80% of it was wrong. First of all, we're talking about, is this hung sheetrock? This is sheetrock that's been hung, correct? Okay.
Yeah, you asked about 6 questions there. So do one and then we'll process the first.
Would you agree with me that this is sheetrock that's been hung at 945?
Yes.
And this was showing the loft area and the master bedroom, right? When we watched that video, showed the loft and the master bedroom.
Entonces, es el cuarto principal y más
Sí.
Then how many stories are there at this home, at this addition?
¿Cuántos pisos tiene esta habitación?
Viene desde el garaje, second floor, tercer piso.
So it has a garage, a second floor, and a third floor.
Okay, so was sheetrock hung in the garage?
Entonces tuvieron que terminar el chivo en el garaje.
El finish, poner el tape y los joints.
Didn't ask about finish. You're saying,
Let him, he needs to answer and don't interrupt.
I'm sorry, Judge.
Yes. Poner el chivo en el garaje.
No, el garaje estaba igual, así.
No, the garage was the same way, just like that.
Garage was the same way. Was the second floor the same way?
El garaje estaba igual, el segundo piso estaba igual, pero
Toda la casa.
the entire house.
Okay, so all the house had sheetrock. So what you did,
Entonces, toda la casa tenía sheetrock.
sorry,
Yes.
so we're good? Okay. So you finished the sheetrock, right? You put the mud and the tape, did the joints, you did the finishing of the sheetrock, correct?
Sí. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, are you, we didn't really hear what you do. Are you in the sheetrock business?
Yo trabajo, pongo chirrac, hago la pintura interior y exterior. Eso yo lo sé hacer también.
What I do is I do the work of this sheetrock. I also do painting, and I do painting exterior and the interior.
Do you do it yourself or do you have people that work for you to do it?
Yo tengo,
Usted lo hace por su propia cuenta, usted tiene que
no, yo tengo mis 4 o 5 muchachos que trabajan conmigo.
No, I have my 4 or 5 guys that work.
Okay. What do you typically charge per sheet for finish? How do you, tell me how you price sheetrock finishing? Just strike the first question.
Esa es la primera pregunta que usted cobra normalmente. Las tablas de sheet.
Por las tablas de chirrac se cobra dependiendo la cantidad de tablas que usted vaya a poner.
By the sheetrock boards, it depends on the quantity of sheetrocks you're gonna place in the home.
Okay, so what do you charge by the board for finishing?
Entonces, usted cobra cada tabla.
Puesta y finichada.
You mean placed in and finished?
I'm talking about, you would come into a job. Do you hang sheetrock as well? Do you hang sheetrock?
Usted entra a un trabajo, es usted también que entonces pone el sheetrock en las paredes. ¿Eso lo hace usted?
Si el cliente me lo pide, lo hago.
If the client asks me to do it, I do.
All right, how much do you charge per board to hang sheetrock?
¿Cuánto puede ser por cada tabla para poder?
Vuelvo y te repito, según la cantidad y el grado de dificultad del trabajo.
Again, I repeat, it depends on the quantity and the type of difficulty of the job.
Okay,
I'm
well,
gonna ask a question now. Mr. Londono, you said that you were paid $11,000 for the sheetrock work. Is that correct?
Esto me precisa, no me consigue como usted va a preparar $11,000 por trabajo de sheetrock.
Aclaro, no poner el chirrac, poner el tape y dar el finish.
Not to place the sheetrock, I just want to clarify, to place the tape and the finish.
Okay, fair point. How much of the work that generated the $11,000 was fixing what was wrong versus new work? In other words, if it hadn't been taped, that's not wrong, it just wasn't done yet.
So cuando el trabajo fue, dice, como determinar y arreglar en vez de si estuviese todo arreglado y adecuado, no había que poner el tape y terminar.
Does that question make sense?
¿Se entiende esa pregunta?
No, so confused.
Okay, so when you did the painting,
Mhm.
that was all new work. There was no painting you needed to fix.
Cuando se hizo la pintura, eso era todo un trabajo nuevo, no había.
Is that correct?
Sí, sí.
Okay. With the sheetrock, you've testified that you and your team had to fix some things.
Cuando entraba de Chiva, se vio que este equipo, al platazo tuvieron que terminar
Because it wasn't level or whatever the issue was.
el trabajo, ya que no estaba emparejado o algo así de ese tipo de cosas.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I would like you to estimate how much of your work, the $11,000 worth of work, was fixing things versus doing new work like taping and finishing.
Quiero que me den un estimado de cuánto de su trabajo, son $11,000, fue haciendo el arreglo, dando las cosas en vez de si fuese un trabajo.
Does that question make sense?
¿Entiendes?
Okay.
Claro. O sea, más o menos, yo di un precio por arreglar todo,
So let's see, I gave a price to fix everything.
pero lo que arreglé en el chirrac, que fueron los joints y los niveles mal puestos,
So in regards to, so let's see, the work, what I did was to fix the joints and the levels that were not adequate.
creo fue más o menos $3,000.
I would say it was more or less 3,000,
3 of the 11.
3 de los 11,000. Sí, ahora tengo que contestar.
Sí,
Yes.
Okay. And so the remaining 8,000 was for finishing and the things you'd have to do anyway.
Los otros 8,000 que se encargaron de finishing y todo el trabajo de servicio.
así es.
That's right.
Thank you. Mr. Oldham, back to you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Judge. How much do you charge, how do you price your sheetrock work? I think that's what we were talking about. You price it by the sheet, correct?
Por eso sí que se entonces cobra por
Es correcto.
That's
Correct.
right.
And it's a 4x12 sheet typically?
Eso normalmente
Sí.
Yes.
So how much do you charge? How much do you charge to hang the sheetrock per sheet?
¿Cuánto conoce para instalar cada pieza de la
Por cada tabla se pone poniéndola y terminándola, más o menos $50.
So you place every board, so placing and finishing each one of them, more or less $50.
I'm asking, just tell him I'd like him to answer my question. What I'm asking him, okay,
Andrew would like to make clarification. You just ask the questions directly to me. We don't,
no, okay, no, I'm with you, okay, my bad. The question I asked you is how much do you charge by the board to hang sheetrock?
de cuánto se cobra cada entonces donation.
Does it depend on the size of the project?
Entonces depende el tamaño del proyecto.
Yo lo cobro, depende del tamaño del proyecto, depende cuántas hojas hay y depende el grado de dificultad. Si
So
está,
I charge based on the size of the project, on also the sheets, the size of the sheets of these boards, and also the difficulty of the work.
Okay, for this work that you've fixed, what would you have charged per board, per 4x12 board? What would your price have been?
¿Cuánto hubiese cobrado por 4x2 trabajo?
ok. Aclarando que yo no le cobré al señor Chada por pedazos de chirra puestos, yo le cobré por un solo precio por todo. Me es difícil decir cuánto cobré por cada pedacito que cambié.
It's very difficult to tell you how much I charge for every little piece that I placed. I basically charged Mr. Chada, to clarify, by the entire job that I completed.
Right,
So we're going to be here for several days if we're going to, right now I see $3,000 that might be attributable to your client out of this 52.
Judge, this is I just would like to, I mean, this is the the plaintiff's brother-in-law. These are easy, honestly, very easy answers that anybody that's in his business would know the answer to. What is a standard? Because the way this, I just want to.
What's the relevance? What's the relevance of a standard price if what he's testified to now twice is, you know what, it depends on the job.
Judge,
If it's don't interrupt. If it's a complicated job, it might be more. If it's a less complicated job, it might be less. So let's not ask him generalities. You can ask him about this job, which right now it's only $3,000. That would look like, it sounds like he was fixing something he said wasn't right, which is a small amount. I suspect we're going to get bigger numbers, and it's $940. So.
Look, I understand that. Okay. The only point that I'm trying to get at is he basically, the sheetrock was already hung. Okay. He finished the sheetrock. It's a standard finish. I want to know what he charges to hang, because we've got a comparison of what we charge to hang and what we charge to finish. We didn't have the chance to finish. Okay. So all I'm trying to do is establish he's an expert. I presume this is his business. He's been at that house. He's worked on it and did $52,000 worth of work on it between sheetrock and painting. He ought to be able to answer a simple question. I want to know, he should know how many sheets of sheetrock are in that place. I know how many there are.
Okay. Why would he count it if he didn't hang it?
He wouldn't have to, but he has to come up with a way to price it. How would he price this job? That's what I want to know. How does he price the job?
Then ask that question.
Okay.
And just ask about the sheetrock, because unless you're asking about the painting.
Correct. How did you price the finishing job?
¿Cómo? Porque tengo 25 años trabajando en este negocio y yo calculo el precio que tengo que dar por un trabajo. Yo no hago chirrac todos los días, 7 días a la
How I do
semana.
this is I've been in this business for 25 years, and that's how I calculate rates. I don't do sheetrock work on a daily basis.
You don't do sheetrock work on a daily basis.
Yeah,
No,
no.
So what do you do on a daily basis?
pintura interior y exterior y también chirrac, pero no en cantidades gigantes.
I do painting in the exterior and interior, and also sheetrock, but not in large amounts.
Right. Are you aware of what the industry standard is for finishing boards in a large amount of sheetrock?
Sí.
Yes.
What is it?
¿Cómo así? No entiendo.
I'm sorry, what do you mean? I don't understand.
Okay. How did he price? Just tell me how he price. I'm sorry. Tell me how you priced this job. Did you measure? Did you count boards? What did you do to price this job?
Muchos trabajos, el 80% de los trabajos que yo hago, por la experiencia que yo tengo, como muchas otras personas dan trabajos, lo dan a ojo, solamente viendo el sitio, el lugar, lo que hay que hacer, ya uno calcula cuánto vale.
So normally the type of work that I do, this is all calculated, and 80% of my job is done on my site. A lot of people in this industry also do it the same way, where you do a calculation based on the place, the size of the place, and the locations.
Okay. Did you take into account that you were doing this for your brother-in-law? Did you give him a brother-in-law rate?
Claro, por eso le di un excelente precio, le di un precio muy barato. Esa compañía le hubiera cobrado mucho más.
Of course, that's why I gave them a different rate, I gave them a lesser rate. If it was another company, I would, based on my company, I would charge a lot more.
Okay, well, okay, so what would you have charged if it wouldn't have been for your brother-in-law? You charged $11,000 for sheetrock. What would you have charged to do the finishing, to do the work that you did here? What would your price have been?
Can you interpret that to clarify the question?
Pardon me?
Can the interpreter have you clarify?
Ask one question.
Okay. All right. Okay, so had you charged me, if it was my house,
This is your casa and basic order.
and you didn't know me, what would you have charged me?
Solo por el sheetrock,
Just for the sheetrock.
Yes, just to finish the sheetrock.
Sí, solo para el-
por ahí unos $15,000.
Around $15,000.
Okay. Just to finish the sheetrock that was there.
Sí, para tener el-
Arreglar los joints, los niveles que quedaron mal puestos, poner el tape, finishar 3 veces y primer y limpieza.
To fix the joints, level it out, to do it, then to do the primer, finish it 3 times, and so paint it, and finish with the primer.
Right. So let's go, we will now go to the painting, okay?
I don't know.
So your painting prices, did that include materials?
This is really money.
Sí.
Yes.
How much was you remember how much the material was for this job?
So you're gonna go to
¿Adentro o afuera?
in the exterior or interior?
Well, let's do interior first. How much was the paint?
We're gonna have anything, one thing, right?
Interior se cobró 17,500. No, interior fue $23,000, interior.
In the interior was 17, no, I'm sorry, it was
23.
23,000
Whoa,
Interior.
whoa.
for the interior.
No. The question I asked was for the material, for the paint. You said your price included paint. How much of your price was the paint?
No, peor de es la pintura.
Son como casi $6,500 más o menos.
Almost around 6,500, more or less,
For the interior?
for the interior.
Sí,
Yes.
All right, and then how much for the exterior paint?
¿Cuánto fue la pintura del exterior?
por exterior fueron 17,500. Todo.
For the exterior is 17,500 in total.
Wait, and for paint? I mean, how much for paint material? That's what I'm asking.
For la pintura, pues, por el material, pero
Exterior.
for the exterior.
For material, for the exterior paint material.
Más o menos. Fueron como $6,000.
That was around $6,000.
Around 6,000 for materials. Did you buy the materials?
Yes.
Yes.
So whatever your charges are included materials.
Labor y material.
Yes, labor and material.
Okay. And how do you go about, how do you determine your pricing for interior, exterior? What's a rule of thumb you use?
Entonces, ¿cuál es el estándar que se usa para calcular sus precios del interior y exterior?
Vuelvo y le repito, yo no me manejo por pie cuadrado dando precio, me manejo según el trabajo, lo que haya que hacer por mi experiencia que tengo.
Like I said, again, I don't do it, I don't calculate my prices by feet of the job or square root of the job. I do it based on my experience that I have to calculate.
Okay, so I'm assuming you would have given your brother-in-law a much better price than you would give me. So what would my price have been?
Entonces, me asumo que usted había el precio, ¿qué precio me quisiera dar?
Por todo el trabajo,
For inside,
For the
And then-
entire
and the-
job?
inside and outside.
For the
paint.
interior y exterior.
ok. Por ahí unos $4,000, $5,000 más.
Around $4,000, $5,000 more.
$4,005, $4,000, $5,000 more for each, both interior and exterior.
$4,000, $5,000 por cada trabajo. ¿Por
Sí.
interior y exterior? Yes.
All right, so $8,000 more dollars.
This is the $8,000.
Sí.
Yes.
Okay, just going back to I got one more question for you. Going back to the sheetrock, do you have any idea how many how many boards of sheetrock were hung in this place?
O sea, eso no es el shiva, es like cuántas tablas de shiva se instalaron en este lugar.
No, eso fue demasiadas, muchas, más de, yo le calculo barato, por ahí unas 400, eso estaba en una casa muy grande.
No, I don't know, but if I had to say this on the cheap side, around 400, it was a really large house.
All right, final question. On your painting, did that include only the addition? Did you paint the main house as well?
Incluyendo la pregunta, en la pintura es incluir también la casa principal.
Sí, la área pequeña de la casa antigua, sí.
The small portion of the older home, yes.
And when did you do that?
Dice trabajo conceptual.
Ese trabajo se hizo, exterior se hizo más o menos como en julio.
The exterior was done more or less in July
2022.
2022.
July of 22, okay. All right, no further questions, thank you.
Mr. Haidari, any redirect?
Just a point of clarification. In terms of painting, you mentioned you painted the existing house. That was just the exterior of the existing house?
Sí, la casa antigua, lo pequeño, solo fue exterior.
Yes, in the older home, it was just the small part of the exterior.
And how much of your painting or job, if you were to pull out that price, would be for that small portion of the exterior of the existing home?
Dar el precio, cuánto es su trabajo, los servicios de cobro, llega para esa pieza de la casa.
3,000.
3,000.
So you had estimated 41,000 for painting, interior and exterior, but 3,000 of that was actually exterior of old house.
Ustedes nada era 40,000, interior exterior, 3,000 es el precio de la casa.
Yes. Sí,
Yes,
señor.
yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. Londono. You are free to go. All right, next witness, Jose. This will be another one of your witnesses if you're good. We're gonna front load all those unless you want to swap out.
We're gonna swap around.
Okay. You take turns with witnesses, works for me. Thank you so much. So Mr. Lyles, if you'll come up, I'll swear you in. I swore in Ms. Hanson. I'll swear you in and then we'll take this witness. Sir, do you swear or affirm that you will translate or interpret from English to Spanish and Spanish to English to the best of your ability? Great. All right. Deputy Gordon, if you'll swear this person in. There we go.
You swear affirm the testimony you will give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but truth, self, sure.
Yes, I swear.
Go ahead, have
Yeah.
state your swear your name for the record.
Yeah, just before we start, I don't have a pen and I need to.
I got it.
Oh, here comes, all right. Thank you, Ms. Hanson.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
This is it.
Good morning, sir.
Oh, he needs to spell his name so we know who we've got here.
Mi nombre es José Enriquez. Enriquez con H.
My name is Jose Enriquez.
Can you spell Enriquez, please?
Es Henriquez.
It's Henriquez.
Thank you.
De nada.
You're welcome.
Mr. Enriquez, did you perform services for Mr. Chada?
Yo le dije, usted hizo trabajo al señor Chada.
Sí, correcto.
Yes, correct.
What services did you perform?
¿Qué servicios hizo?
Yo le hice a él lo que es el carpintería del interior.
Well, I did for him what interior carpentry.
And where did you perform these services?
Y estos trabajos, servicios, exactamente dónde los realizó.
Dije el interior de carpintería interior, entonces es en el interior de la casa,
I
correcto.
said carpentry, interior carpentry, so it would be in the inside of the home.
And it was a poor question, but just for clarification, you performed those services at his house that he was renovating.
Sí.
Estaba muy bien formulada. Entonces, el trabajo que hizo,
Sí, correctamente, en el
Yes.
interior.
correct, inside.
And how much were you paid for those services?
¿Cuánto le cancelaron, le pagaron por esos servicios?
Fueron 12,500.
12,500.
And you mentioned that you did the interior carpentry. Is that the trim or was that something else?
Mencionó entonces que hizo trabajo en el interior de la casa de carpintería. Ese trabajo que hizo específicamente fue el trimming o alguna otra cosa.
Bueno, empezamos instalando baseboard, hicimos el casing de ventanas. En ese, ok.
We started working with the baseboard, we did the window casing.
Luego, como él no tenía las puertas, pues se tomaron medidas
Since he didn't have the doors, we took measurements.
y luego él pasó a hacer la orden.
So after that, he made the order.
Y en todo ese tiempo que él tenía la orden de las puertas, nosotros estábamos trabajando en lo que se podía. Baseboard.
All the
Okay.
time that the order for the doors was, he had the order for the doors, we were continuing to work baseboard
Y ventanas.
and windows.
Did you supply the materials?
Proveyó los materiales de trabajo.
Yo tomé la lista de cuántos pies lineales se necesitaba y él hizo la orden a Lumo Supply.
And I did the list of what was needed, and he placed the order with Loomis Supply.
So the plaintiff actually bought the materials and
Yes.
the amount that you quoted, that was for your labor.
Entonces, el demandante, con todos los documentos materiales, el monto que usted mencionó al principio, fue lo que usted cobró por su propio trabajo.
Solamente labor.
Only labor.
And just as one point of clarification, was that just to finish the project or did you have to fix anything as well?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, your labor, was that just to finish the project or did you have to fix any issues?
Con respecto entonces a lo que usted cobró por su trabajo, ¿era para arreglar algún problema o por hacer algo en ese lugar de trabajo?
Simplemente hacer el trabajo completo porque no había nada que arreglar, simplemente había de instalar todo.
Simply it was to do the job that we had to install. Pero había solamente que instalar.
Instalar, nada de arreglar.
It was only to do installation, nothing to be fixed
Por mi parte.
on my behalf.
Thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Oldham, questions for Mr. Enriquez?
Yes, sir. Mr. Enriquez, hey, I'm Larry Oldham. I represent Mr. Ghouchani Homes. Martin, Ghouchani Homes. How did you come to work with Mr. Chada Jimenez?
¿Cómo es que terminó usted haciendo el trabajo al señor Chada?
Bueno, lo conocí por un amigo mío que él era el que le iba a hacer el hardwood floor a él.
¿Qué fue? I met him through a friend of mine who was the one who was going to do for him the hardwood floors.
All right, what do you charge? How much did you charge per linear foot for the baseboard that you installed?
¿Cuánto cobra usted por pie lineal para el baseboard que usted iba a instalar?
Bueno, normalmente yo cobro $3 por pie lineal, pero a él no le cobré por pie lineal, simplemente por el proyecto completo.
Normally I charge $3 per linear feet, but I only charge him for the whole job.
Okay, so did you calculate the amount of linear feet that you were doing as far as baseboard and casing?
Calculó el total de pies lineales que tenía que hacer para el baseboard y el trabajo final.
Bueno, sí me di, pero en realidad
Yes, I did measure, but in reality,
no recuerdo cuántos pies lineales fueron.
I do not remember specifically how many linear feet were.
Okay, if I told you how many linear feet there were, would that help you based on the plans?
Si te digo yo aquí cuántos pies lineales fueron, te ayudaría a ti basado en el plan.
Sí.
Yes.
Right. Let's say there were 650 linear feet of casing, 650 linear feet.
So you said baseboard, you're switching to casing?
No, I'm just talking about the trim. I'll do baseboard.
You can do whatever you want.
We're good. Okay, we're just talking about his charges per linear foot. Baseboard. Does it refresh your recollection that there were 800 linear feet of baseboards to be installed?
Entonces a recordarle que acabo de decirle que serían 800 pies lineales que se hicieron de béisbol. Eso es correcto, ¿me ayuda a recordarse?
Bueno, como dije, no puedo decir que porque yo no recuerdo cuántos pies.
Like I said before, I am unable to remember how many feet were there.
Porque el precio que yo di fue instalar baseboard, casing e instalación de puertas.
The price I gave was to install baseboard, casing, and door installation.
Okay. So how do you typically price your jobs? You price it by the linear foot, right? You're required to do that to compete with people.
Típicamente, entonces, ¿cómo te le da precio a su trabajo? Lo hace usted obviamente, ya que hay otra competencia que hacen para competir contra otros. ¿Cómo lo hace?
Bueno, gracias a Dios yo no tengo competencia porque trabajo con mis clientes que
Thank God that I have no competition because I work with my clients.
ellos siempre me mantienen con trabajo, trabajo por muchos años con ellos.
They always keep me with jobs. I've been working for many years for them.
Pero si un cliente nuevo
But if there is a new client
me pide un precio por pie lineal o por precio por puerta,
if a new client asks me price based on linear feet or doors,
$3 por pie de béisbol, depende del tamaño, porque hay muchos tamaños.
$3 per feet for baseboard, depending on the size, because there are different dimensions.
Agreed. So just say a standard builder's grade. That means, do you understand what I'm talking about when I say builder's grade?
Sí, claro, entiendo perfectamente, pero
Yes, of course, I understand perfect, but
no hay un precio estándar porque cada builder trabaja diferente.
there is no standard price because each builder works different.
Porque si hablamos de residencial construction, es un precio.
¿Hablamos de él?
Casas residenciales.
Because if we are talking about residential building homes,
Y si hablamos de proyectos comerciales, es otro precio.
and if we are talking about commercial building, then that's another price.
All right, well, let's talk about residential because you recognize that this was a residence that you worked on, correct?
Correcto.
Vamos a hablar entonces del precio de construcción residencial. Te reconocen que esto es una residencia, ¿correcto?
Correcto.
Correct.
So you're pricing a job, you're pricing it by linear foot. You're going to price it either with or without materials, correct?
Va a darle el precio a un trabajo que hace línea. Usted, el precio que da por ese trabajo lo hace incluyendo los materiales que va a utilizar.
Simplemente es mi labor.
Simply is my labor.
Simply your labor. So you're $3 a linear foot for labor.
Entonces, los 3 pies lineales que da es simplemente por lo que usted cobra por el trabajo.
Por instalar el béisbol.
For installing baseball.
Right, okay. And what about for casing?
Y el casing, ¿cuánto lo cobra?
250 pie lineal.
250 linear feet.
$250 or $2.50?
$250, $2.50.
I need to get into that business.
$2.50.
$2.50.
For linear foot for casings.
Yeah.
Y el lineal para hacer el casing.
Sí, para hacer el casing.
Yes.
$2.50.
To do the casing, $2.50.
Labor only.
Solo su mano de obra.
Estamos hablando simplemente de labor.
We are only talking simply about labor.
Got it.
All right, how much to hang a door?
¿Cuánto cobras por montar una puerta?
$150.
$150.
$150. What about a double door?
Una puerta de estas dobles.
150 sería mínimo $250.
150 would be minimum 250.
Okay, so at most 250 to hang a double door.
Entonces, el máximo por montar una puerta doble cobraría $250.
Sí, correcto.
Yes, correct.
All right, what about now these doors that you installed in this home, were they standard size doors? Were they,
Las puertas que usted montó en esta casa eran pues puertas estándar, tamaño estándar.
No, no lo era. Ahorita, no, no era tamaño estándar.
No, they were not standard size.
what size were they?
¿Qué tamaño era?
7 pies, 9 pulgadas, 8 pies.
7 feet, 9 inches, 8 feet,
8-foot door, okay.
y 8 pies.
Sí.
Yes.
And what about the quality of the doors that you installed? Were they builder grade or were they better than that?
La calidad de las puertas que estoy instalando. ¿Qué calidad era? ¿Calidad de constructor o mejor calidad de ese nivel?
Mejor calidad.
Better grade.
What about the same with the casing?
Y con respecto al casing, lo mismo.
Sí,
And,
Yes.
and
de
same
madera
with,
de primera calidad.
Wood casing, first class.
okay, and then same with the baseboard?
De
Lo mismo para el baseboard.
lo mismo.
The same.
All right, now you said your pricing is where it is because you're fortunate enough not to have any competition. You don't have to compete with anybody because you have your standard clients.
Te ha indicado que su precio que cobra usted por mano de obra es un precio que lo hace usted porque no tiene competencia y tiene siempre clientes fijos a los que siempre le hace trabajo. Correcto.
Bueno, con él pues fui recomendado con un amigo.
With him, well, I was recommended to a friend.
Understand? I'm talking about, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not good at this, but
You don't need to, he's going to ask a question. You don't need to translate the commentary.
correct. So your standard, who do you do your work for?
¿Para
your-
quién hace usted estos trabajos?
Para mis clientes,
For my clients.
I know, who are your clients? Builders?
¿Quiénes son tus clientes? ¿Cómo son?
I said, who are your clients? Builders?
¿Quiénes son tus clientes? Constructores.
constructores de custom home.
uh, builders of customs homes.
Right, and what general price range?
Y el precio entonces general, ¿cuál sería?
Pues ya lo dije, $3 por pie, lineal de béisbol, $2.50 por casing.
Like I already said, $3 per.
No. Stop. What's the general price of the custom homes?
Yes.
El precio general, te acaba de aclarar. ¿Cuál es el precio generalizado de estas casas que se hacen a pedimento?
Como el valor de la casa.
The value of the home.
Yeah, just what do they sell for? What do they sell for?
¿Qué precio se vendería en esa casa?
No, I mean, just generally though, you know,
Mínimo 1 millón para arriba. He hecho casas de que valen 5, 6, 8 millones de dólares. Por eso estamos hablando de que son builder custom home.
Well, minimum 1 million, but I've worked on homes that are worth 5 million, 6 million, 8 million. That's why we are mentioning that these are a custom home built for builders.
okay, thank you. No further questions.
Any redirect, Mr. Hadari? All right, Mr. Enriquez, thank you for your time.
You know.
All right, next witness.
Last witness that required a translator, Your Honor, is Daniel.
Mr. Lyons, do you want to stay or do you want to swap out with Ms. Hanson? I don't see her.
Yeah.
She abandoned you. All right, then let's get this individual sworn in.
Can you raise your right hand? Do you swear affirm that the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I swear.
The lawyer have a seat. Say this for your name for the record.
Entonces ahora, tu nombre y apellido y luego nombre.
Daniel Vega.
Daniel Vega.
Can you spell your last name?
Vega.
Vega.
All right, Mr. Hadari.
Good morning, sir. Did you provide any services for Mr. Chata?
Usted le hizo trabajo al señor Chata.
Sí, correcto.
Yes, correct.
What services did you provide?
¿Qué servicio fue lo que le dio?
Se llama Hardscape, que es el driveway de la propiedad.
It's called horse.
Hardscape.
Hardscape
Hardscape.
and
¿Y qué más?
Y es el driveway de la propiedad.
Is the driveway of the property.
the driveway?
Hiciste todo el driveway, todo el driveway.
Correcto, todo el driveway.
Correct, all the driveway.
Okay.
And how much did Mr. Chata pay you for your services?
Por esos servicios, esos trabajos que hiciste al señor Chata, ¿cuánto le pagó él?
Por el driveway, originalmente basado en el plano,
For the driveway, originally speaking, based on the drawings,
fueron $57,000.
was $57,000.
Pero después se hizo un cambio
But after a change was made
de concreto a ladrillo paint.
from concrete to
Ladrillo paint,
brick for pavement,
pavers.
pavers. Sorry, the interpreter corrects, bricks for pavements.
So what was the final total you were paid by Mr. Chata for the driveway?
Finalmente, el total del señor Chara terminó pagándole a usted por ese trabajo que hizo usted en la entrada.
En el precio principal fueron 57,
And the main price was 57,
pero con el cambio se aumentó a $22,000.
But with the changes, it increased to 22.
You added 22.
Correcto,
Sumó a ese saldo 22.
correcto.
Correct.
Okay. Because you changed to bricks for pavers.
Porque cambió entonces a ese ladrillo para pavers.
Sí, de concreto a pavers.
Yes, from concrete to pavers.
And did Mr. Chada tell you to switch from concrete to pavers, or is that a decision you made?
El señor Chávez le dio instrucciones a usted para cambiar de concreto a pavers. Fue una decisión que tomó usted por su propia cuenta.
No. El cliente, señor Sada.
No. The client.
Okay. And 79,000, which is that total, that was material and labor?
Si en total suma esto $79,000, eso sería entonces mano de obra más materiales.
Correcto.
Correct.
What about hardscape? What did you get paid for hardscape?
Y por el hardscape que usted hizo, ¿cuánto le pagó?
No, el trabajo es hardscape, que incluye concreto o ladrillo pavers.
No, the work was hardscape that includes the concrete or the brick pavers.
Got it.
No landscape.
No landscape.
Understood. Thank you.
And so just to clarify, sir, if you were just pouring a driveway according to the design with no upgrades, no pavers, that would have been $57,000.
Entonces, para estar claro, el trabajo que se hizo, de acuerdo al diseño del plan, sin ningún tipo de cambio o adiciones, el costo hubiese sido de 57,000.
Correcto.
Correct.
Was there already a driveway there and you replaced it, or it was dirt and you laid it down?
Ya existía en ese lugar un driveway, una entrada, o estaba de tierra, y usted entonces la hizo desde el comienzo.
La parte de atrás era solamente tierra.
The back area was only dirt,
Y enfrente de la casa tenía un poco de concreto.
and in front of the home, it had some concrete.
You had to remove the concrete?
Tuvo entonces que remover el concreto que ya estaba ahí.
Correcto.
Correct.
That was all part of the price.
Y eso incluyó, entonces ese trabajo era parte del precio que usted cobró.
Correcto, más aparte mucho trabajo extra que se hizo.
Correct. Besides extra work that we did.
And did you also have to clean up some concrete that was poured as part of the foundation?
También tuvieron ustedes que encargarse de limpiar el concreto que había sido vaciado como parte de la fundación de esa casa.
Sí, correcto, de los que hicieron la fundación, de los concreteros principales.
Yes, correct. The ones who build the foundation were the principal concrete layers.
Sí, me tocó en ese precio, me tocó a mí rentar 2 contenedores para poder sacar la basura.
At that price, I had to rent under that price 2 containers to be able to take out that garbage
El concreto que habían dejado.
and the concrete that had been left behind.
So you didn't do concrete work on the foundation, but you did clean up, I'm going to call it concrete mess that was left behind?
Si usted no hizo el trabajo inicial de la fundación en concreto, si no le tocó y dice, bueno, le voy a dar este nombre, la basura o el concreto que dejaron fue lo que le tocó limpiar.
Correcto para poder hacer mi proyecto.
Correct, to be able then to execute my own project.
Was there an extra charge for the client for that concrete cleanup?
Hubo un costo adicional o extra que le cobró al cliente usted por tener que hacer ese trabajo de limpieza, de remoción.
Sí, correcto, y incluyen los $57,000.
Yes, correctly, and it was included in the $57,000.
How much do you recall?
¿Recuerdas exactamente de ese precio? ¿Cuánto?
No recuerdo, son 14 meses atrás y es mucho.
No, I don't recall. It happened 14 months ago and it's been a long time.
Okay.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Oldham?
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Vega, Hi, name is Larry Oldham. I represent Mr. Ghouchani and Ghouchani Homes. I take it you're DV Concrete? Is that your company? Sorry.
Questions.
I know, my bad. I just introduced myself. You can tell them I introduced myself.
El señor es el señor Gordon, y representación de Ghouchani, de Jimenez.
DV Construction in Auburn, Georgia, right?
So,
Correcto.
Yep. I believe I left you a message yesterday do you recall getting a message from me to your company phone?
No recuerdo.
I don't recall.
Okay, it's fine. So the $57,000, how much do you charge? How much do you charge per square foot for concrete? Labor and material.
De los 57 ¿cuánto cobra específicamente? Ya
It's really per yard.
mano de obra, por pie línea.
Se cobra por pie cuadrado,
One charges per square feet,
no pie lineal.
no linear feet.
No,
Y como dijeron las personas pasadas,
And like the people that came before me and said,
es muy diferente los precios, cambian mucho los precios dependiendo del trabajo.
the prices are very different. They change quite a bit depending on the type of work or job.
Pero básicamente
But basically,
hay un precio alrededor entre 9.50 a 10.50 el pie cuadrado, incluyendo el material.
there is a price used between $9.50 and $10.50, including material per square feet.
En concreto, regular.
In concrete, regular.
all right. So if you were to figure out how much, strike this. Does that include prep work?
El precio que acabo de dar incluye trabajo preparatorio.
Hasta cierto punto sí.
Until a degree, yes.
Right, I mean, it would include getting it ready, forming for the driveway.
Obviamente, incluiría hacer toda la base donde se va a vaciar, dar eso en el fondo.
Incluye preparación y tirar el concreto y el finish.
It includes preparation and rub the concrete and finish.
Was there a driveway in place when you first visited this property?
Cuando usted por primera vez fue a ver esa propiedad, vio usted si ya estaba construida o hecha un driveway o entrada.
Solamente el concreto existente de la parte de enfrente un poco.
Only the existing concrete, a bit of it.
Pardon me?
La parte de enfrente una parte existente de concreto
In
existente.
front of it, there was an existing portion of concrete.
Okay, and then as you came into the driveway down to the back where the addition is,
Así entonces, cuando llega y se para en el driveway, yéndose a la parte de atrás, está el anexo del servicio.
was there any concrete back there?
Había o no había en esa parte de atrás concreto.
Solamente los que dejaron las personas que hicieron la fundación, que levanté.
Only the one that had been left behind by the people that laid the foundation that I cleaned up.
Okay, and how much was that, how much was left there as far as to clean up?
¿Cuánto estimas tú dejaron ellos allí que le tocó limpiar?
Fue demasiado porque me demoró alrededor de 2 días con maquinaria
It was a lot because it took me using machinery 2 days to take.
When were you there?
¿Cuándo fue que usted estuvo allí?
No recuerdo la fecha exacta,
I do not recall the exact day,
pero fue alrededor de enero, febrero del 2023.
but it was about or around January, February of 2022.
Pero yo tengo cómo checar si gustan.
But I'm able to verify that.
No, that's okay. I just was wondering, gentlemen.
No es necesario.
You answered my question. Thank you. You said it took you 2 days to clean up the concrete from the slab.
Dice que 2 días limpiar el concreto que quedó de lo que vaciaron de esa plancha.
No, no, tal vez me expliqué mal,
No,
pero
no.
eso es con toda la basura de concreto y la otra basura que venden.
No, perhaps I explained myself incorrectly. That was all the garbage that was just left behind. The concrete and the other.
What was the other garbage? Was it wood and construction debris?
Sí, correcto.
Yes, correct.
All right. In your price of $57,000, what did you build? What were you going to do besides the driveway?
En ese precio que diste de $57,000, ¿qué fue lo que construiste? ¿Qué hiciste además de hacer entonces la entrada afuera?
Que incluía
It included
3,200 pies cuadrados de concreto, de driveway.
3,200 square feet for the driveway.
Sí, incluía la demolición de alrededor 1,200 pies cuadrados de concreto existente.
It included the demolition of approximately 1,200 square feet that were there.
That's the existing driveway from you said was from the road to the front of the house?
Esa sería entonces el driveway que estaba presente desde la calle hacia el frente de la casa.
Correcto.
Correct.
Incluía el material que es concreto 4,000 PSI con fibra.
Included the material, concrete with fiber, 4,000 feet.
PSI.
¿No?
PSI.
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 With the PSI.
How much more is 4,000 PSI than 3,000 PSI?
En ¿cuánto más o cuál es la diferencia entre 4,000 PSI a 3,000 PSI?
Mucho mejor calidad de
Much
producto
better quality
y fuerza.
and strength.
Agreed. That's not the question I asked him. I'm asking about the price, the cost.
Está de acuerdo contigo, solamente quiso que le dijera la diferencia en precio. ¿Cuál fue el costo? La diferencia de costo. 3,000 y 4,000.
Yo no hago concreto 3,000 para mis clientes residenciales.
I do not lay for my residential clients 3,000 PSI for residential.
Okay, I understand that. So
Yeah.
3,000 PSI is standard for a residential customer.
Mi PSI es concreto estándar que se usa para clientes residenciales.
Tal vez otras compañías yo no.
Perhaps other companies would, but I wouldn't.
Oh, you don't do, are you saying you don't do 3,000 PSI?
O sea, entonces está diciéndome que tú no tiras carga concreto de 3,000 PSI.
No para los clientes como el señor Shadow.
Not for clients like Mr. Shaka.
Cuando son dueños de casa, no construyo eso.
When they are homeowners, I do not use them.
Solamente cuando hago trabajos comerciales que me lo requiere el plano.
Only when I'm doing commercial work and that the drawings are requested or included.
Right, so The only reason, you normally would do 3,000 PSI.
Entonces, normal, dice usted, haría 3,000 PSI.
So he said the opposite. He said
I know,
for
but
his,
he did say the opposite, then he was talking about commercial, so I'm trying to just clarify what he was.
how about this? When you do pour 3,000 PSI, what is the cost difference with 4,000 PSI?
Pero usted hace la pregunta porque él te estaba haciendo la pregunta de una manera. Dice, cuando usas concreto de presión 3,000 PSI, ¿cuál es la diferencia en el costo de ese concreto al concreto de 4,000 PSI?
Es mucho la diferencia porque donde yo uso cemento 3,000 PSI,
The difference is very significant because when I use 3,000 PSI concrete,
es en trabajos comerciales
it's in commercial work
donde los proyectos pueden valer $500,000, $1,000,000 o hasta más.
where cost of project could be around $500,000, $1 million, or even more than that.
Okay.
Okay. What else was included in your $57,000 price?
¿Qué más incluiste entonces en ese precio que diste de 57,000?
Eso incluía gradear, hacer el grading de la propiedad donde iba sentado el driveway.
That included doing the grading where the driveway was going to be built,
Recoger la tierra,
pick up the dirt,
pagar un camión para que la sacara de la propiedad.
pay a truck to lift it and take it out of the property.
Did you change the grade significantly?
Tuviste que cambiar entonces el grading significativamente.
El grading no se cambia, nosotros no cambiamos el grading, es dependiendo de las elevaciones de la propiedad.
The grading does not change. We don't do that, except depending on the elevations
Para que el
of
agua
the properties, so that the water
pueda salir.
can move and come out.
Okay, and where is the water? You do it so that the water moves away from the home?
Esto lo hacen entonces para que corra el agua de la casa hacia afuera.
Lógico que salga de la propiedad, ¿no? De que no se estanque.
Logically, that it moves from the property outside.
What about, did you put in any retaining walls?
Tú construiste, levantaste esas paredes de retención, retaining walls.
Correcto.
Correct?
How much retaining wall did you put in?
¿Cuántas paredes de retención o retaining walls?
Solamente una.
Only one.
And how long was it?
¿De qué tamaño?
Fue de alrededor de 42 pulgadas de altura
It was around
y
42 inches.
65, 68 pies de largo.
And between 65, 68 feet for length.
Right. And where was it located in proximity to the driveway?
Y esa pared que existe de retención, ¿dónde se encuentra con respecto al driveway?
La parte enfrente de los garajes.
In the front side of the garage.
Okay, on the front side of the garage.
Enfrente de los garajes.
En enfrente de los garajes.
In the front side of the garage.
Okay, did you do any curbing work or anything else like that?
¿Hiciste trabajo de curvero, curbing work, algo así?
Solamente, sí, la entrada del driveway.
Yes.
Reparamos porque estaba quebrada.
Only the entrance to the driveway, we repaired it because it was broken.
The entrance to the driveway. Anywhere else that you put in curbing?
Entonces, ¿lo hizo la entrada en alguna otra parte? ¿Lo hicieron eso?
No, solamente la entrada, nada.
No, only in the entrance.
Alrededor de 18 pies.
Around 18 feet, 16 to 18 feet.
16 to 18 feet, okay. All right, any other work that was included in that 57,000?
Otro trabajo incluido en ese precio de 57,000?
No, señor.
No, sir.
Se hicieron los trabajos, pero eso fueron aparte.
Other work was performed, but that was priced separately.
Okay. Were you ever asked to quote 1,456 square feet of concrete for a driveway by Mr. Chada Jimenez?
Pidió el señor Chada Jimenez que era un estimado de unos 14,456 pies de driveway.
14,000. No.
14,000?
1,400, 1,456.
1,406.
No, no porque es todo el driveway completo, porque atrás están los garajes.
No, because it was the whole complete driveway, because the garages are towards the back.
Did you ever look at any plans for the concrete from the garage up to the existing driveway? How much area that would be?
¿Viste los planos existentes del driveway hacia el garaje? Más o menos cuánta sería la distancia allí.
Perdón.
Excuse me again?
I'm saying, did you ever look at any site? Did you look at a site plan? You know, there was, strike that question. Are you aware there is a set of permitted plans that were submitted to the city of Smyrna for this property?
¿Estás consciente de los planos que se hicieron? Si se los entregaron o si sabes que fueron recibidos por la ciudad de Smyrna. ¿Conoces esos planos?
Yo no sé si se recibieron o dieron, porque yo no me encargo nada de con la ciudad.
I am not aware if they were provided or they were filed because I am not responsible for anything to do with the city.
Okay, I got it. Did you ever see a set of plans? Did you see a site plan for this property that had been generated for the homeowner?
Si llegaste tú a ver el esquema de planes que se diseñaron para esta casa, para el dueño de la misma.
So, el site plan tuve que ver para checar la línea de propiedad.
Yes, the site plan, I had to look over it to be able to check the boundaries of the property.
Okay.
Line.
No?
La línea de propiedad.
Yeah, the property lines.
So did you make a calculation of the area between the existing driveway and sort of the patio up at the front of the house back to the garage? Did you calculate that area?
Yo hice las medidas basada en el lugar, no en el site plan.
I made the measurements on the site, not based on the site plan.
Okay, if I told you that that was 1,456 square feet, could you dispute that?
Si yo te dijera entonces que esa medida fueron 1,456 pies, podrías disputarla, estarías en oposición.
No comprendo la pregunta, ¿me la puede repetir?
I do not understand your question. Can you ask me the question?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Any
Thanks.
redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Vega, thank you for your time.
Gracias.
Are we done with witnesses who require interpretive services?
Yes, Your Honor, and just in terms of efficiency, there could have been more, but you're gonna hear from Mr. Chada, who's gonna basically talk about what he paid to finish the projects. The next witness that I'm gonna call is Mr. Sari, who's sitting in the back.
All right, well, before you do that, Ms. Hanson and Mr. Lyles, thank you for your services. Appreciate both you helping out here. Do I need to sign anything or you're both good? Okay, all right, great, thanks.
Thank you, sir.
May I have a quick comfort break?
Is this a good time for, well, you know what, you can go anytime you want. We're gonna press on. So maybe after this witness. Mr. Oldham, you good if we keep
Yes.
going? Okay,
I'd like to get up all our time we can. Judge.
okay.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm that the testimony you will give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Sure, you know, see. State and spell your name for the record.
Salar Sayari, last name Sayari.
Mr. Sayari, could you please tell me a little bit about what you do for a living?
Sure. We're a general contractor.
Can you get a little closer to the microphone,
Yes,
please?
of course.
Thanks.
We're a general contractor. We specialize in home improvement. We've been doing that since 2007. We specialized in new home construction in the $600,000 to $800,000 range, and then transition into full home renovations back in 2015 with specializing in bathrooms, basements, and kitchen projects.
Perfect. And the name of your company is what?
BCM in London stands for Building, Construction, and Maintenance.
And could you just give me a ballpark about how many renovations or constructions you performed over the course of the
On average, every year, 40 to 60 projects.
So basically 40 to 60 projects since 2007 per year.
Give or take,
Give or
yes.
Are you a licensed general contractor?
Our company is a licensed general contractor. Yes, sir.
Did you have a chance to look at Mr. Chada's property personally?
I did. I think it was last week when I had the opportunity to go and see the house in person.
And we'll go through all the details in a moment, but just could you give the court your general impressions of what you saw?
The general state of the house seemed in a disarray. As I entered the house from the front, there was a lot going on.
Hold on one
I've
second.
never been qualified as an expert, but I guess, I don't, are you trying to tender him as an expert to give an opinion? You just asking him
Let
to
me,
do his observations? So
Right.
I want to make sure we get that squared away.
Your Honor, I'd like to tender Mr. Sayari as an expert
In what field?
in general contracting.
Okay. Is this someone you gave Mr. Oldham notice of that you'd be calling as an expert?
Back in March of 2023, yes.
Okay. Mr. Oldham, do you want to examine Mr. Ciari as to his credentials?
I'd like to, Judge.
Let's do that.
Sorry. And for the record, he could have been identified, and I don't really know, but that's, I don't care.
Okay.
Mr. Ciari, so how long have you been in the construction business?
Since 2007.
Since 2007, doing what?
We started with new home construction back in 2007 through 2009, 10. We built 4 new home constructions on new projects.
When you say we built, do you actually get out there with a hammer and nails? What, I want to know, what's your level of
In
experience?
the role of project management.
Okay, so you've been a project manager since 2007?
Correct.
Okay, do you know how to put in hardwood floors, for example?
No, I do not handle the physical aspect of the work myself.
Have you ever done any of the physical aspects of any of the work?
I have not.
What was your background before you started in the construction business?
Retail.
Doing what retail?
Clothing retail.
Clothing retail. All right, so in your job as a project manager, what do you do?
In any regular projects?
Yes, this is
On a
just,
day, so for example, I handle the management of the project from A to Z. So I had personally, we're a small family-owned business. I meet with the clients after the contract is signed. I handle from the start of the demolition, framing, all the trades, all the way through the completion of the project. I oversee the entire project, depending on what the project is.
and you have a group of regular subcontractors, I take it you use. Do you ever have any issues with subcontractors?
Absolutely.
Part of the tool of the trade, right? What you said y'all build in the 600 to 800,000 range?
Back in 2007, when we did the 4 homes, correct?
Okay, what range are you building in now?
So we're a home improvement company. We have transitioned. We're no longer handling new construction projects. We specialize in bathrooms, basements, kitchens, and building of additions.
Okay, and so are you experienced with renovations?
I would say I am.
Okay.
In terms of renovating the house.
I'm talking about, yeah, let's talk about an addition. This was a pretty substantial addition to this house, right? And you were there and saw the house. Tell you what, Judge, I'm going to go ahead and just say he's an expert. I'm fine with that. And
Okay.
I'll ask him my questions later.
All right,
Thank
but I
you.
appreciate you providing some context. Mr. Ciari has sounds like a wealth of experience in project management, not so much in physically building, laying the concrete, knowing what's going on with the wood and the concrete, et cetera. Okay.
Sure. Thank you, Your Honor.
So I will qualify Mr. Sari as an expert in the field of general contracting with the background that's been established on the record.
Thank you, Your Honor. And so jumping back to my previous question, I asked if you visited Mr. Chada's property. And what I'd asked was, what was your general impression of what you saw?
Full transparency, from the outside, it looked beautiful. It's a big, beautiful structure on the outside. Walking into the house, I had not seen any pictures or anything prior to walking into it. So walking into the house, I saw, it seemed that the house is still under construction from the front of the existing house into the house. So that's where I met Mr. Jimenez's wife, kind of walked me through everything. The initial items that we looked at were the areas that were damaged due to the leak and the water coming through the ceiling. I was shown the kitchen, the entry right across from the door, the bathroom, and then of course the basement. So that was from the kind of the existing part of the house moving into the addition. As we went through the addition, as we did the walkthrough, a couple of things that was brought out to my attention. Behind the house, there's a third garage door. There's a utility room that is built right in front of it. So that kind of took me off guard, having a utility room built in front of the garage. It seemed odd to me. As we were in the garage area, a couple of other things that were raised were the height and the length of the two garages. The height was referred to the RV that they have, or the length was to refer to the RV that they have, that it would not fit within the garage. And next to it on the smaller garage was the height of it for the other vehicle that would not clear. We discussed coming up with some solutions to address those things and what it would take. And then of course, as we traveled through the rest of the house, the other main item that we noticed was the setup of the stairs. It did not seem consistent in terms of the height. So that seemed a little off. And then we worked our way through the second floor, I think second floor, yes, the master bathroom that was located in there. We had some concern about the location of the steam dispenser for the steam unit, how it was so close to the bench that it was laid in the master bathroom and how it seemed impractical. So those were the initial things. And afterwards, of course, a lot of the pictures were shared with me and we dived a little deeper into the entire scope of the work.
I know we're about to go into all the details, but since we just talked about a few things, just as sort of a preview for the court, I'm going to share a few of the videos. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You've got exhibit numbers you're going to share with us?
Yes, Your Honor. And in candor, I'm just going to pull up a few of them. And then as we go forward, we're going to go through all of them. But this is just a general preview because Mr. Sari mentioned a few things which I thought would be interesting for the court to see. I'm trying to share my screen, Your Honor. Let's see if I can do that. And a second ago, you mentioned that the utility closet was in an odd place in the garage. And I'm going to share this video. And so when you said the utility closet's in a sort of an odd place, is this what you were referring to?
Correct, not knowing any background or any information behind it. And when there's a garage door, I automatically assumed it was meant for a garage, for a car to pull into the space. And that's having a utility room there clearly does not allow that to happen.
And just another miscellaneous thing that we just discussed, which was the stairs sort of not being uniform. Is this what you were referring to as well?
Yes, there's a requirement that we have to follow. So every step usually is about 7.25 to.
I can't see the picture.
Let me try this again, Your Honor. I'm not sure why this is not sharing. There we go.
Yes, that's the picture. In terms of, there should be a consistency and there's a code that each step has to have a specific set of measurements, and that's right at the top of the main level.
And we also talked a little bit about water management. Is water management an integral part of design and construction of a project of this nature?
Correct, yes. After seeing the picture of how the basement had flooded, I would have imagined, or in the projects that we have to do, it's always, the water management is always an issue from the beginning of the construction when there's erosion control having to put down to kind of manage the water clearly. So when I saw that, I thought the initial was like, clearly it's not managed properly because of the flooding and everything issue. And then we brainstormed and discussed of how to remediate or how to address some of these issues. And in my opinion, I think a significant amount of drainage throughout the driveway and probably a significant, whether one at the top of the retaining wall or one large one in front of the garage would help alleviate some of this issue. I don't know how much, and probably properly keeping the water away from the building through grading and driveway, that could also help the process.
And Mr. Sayari, when we're talking about the flooding, is this one of the things you're referring to?
And
Your Honor, I'm not sure why Isaac this is very disjointed. If we would facilitate, I'm happy to show you my laptop.
No, better on these screens. And there was water coming in through a door. I could see that.
Perfect. And as you probably note, Your Honor, these are the exhibits we shared, so you have the copies on the same link that we provided to court. I'm just going to show one other video of the flooding as well. Mr. Sari, that was just sort of a preview for the court about a few things we're going to go through. Now I'm actually going to go through essentially all the issues that are there, and I'd like you to just sort of walk through what you think it would take to fix them and issues with them and things of that nature, sir. Okay, so the first area I want to discuss, and I know you just sort of did the overview, but I want to talk a little bit about the flooding that's happening. And this is independent from the leaks that we'll discuss later. But in terms of the flooding, first of all, could you discuss what issues would present in the house? And second of all, well, we'll just stop there. Could you discuss a little bit of what issues this would present for the house?
So flooding at this extent, of course, in any remediation and restoration project, so when there is a water damage to this extent, all of the drywall, from our experience, all of the drywall, all of the insulation behind the wall would need to be completely removed and go through the process of like properly drying this space. That includes the stud. I know we have foam insulation, so that's probably not damaged, but the water that the wood and everything soaks, it needs to be properly dried before covering it up. So if it's left untreated, it could cause significant structural damage because the mold, the dampness, the moist, it will take its toll on all of the 2x4s, 2x6s, on all of the studs that are structurally holding the house. I don't know during how long, but if left untreated, it will significantly damage the integrity, the structure of the house.
In terms of that opinion, if this flooding has occurred multiple times, would that increase the risk of structural harm?
I would believe so, especially if left untreated.
Mr. Hadari, I don't have all of the complaint committed to memory, but what is there in the record that says flooding is Mr. Ghouchani's problem if the driveway was laid by Mr. Vega? I don't know where the water's coming from. I don't know when this picture was taken. It looks terrible. And clearly that's caused a lot of damage and something needs to be done to fix it. And maybe you're going to get there. And I know we're in a funky posture because the answer has been stricken, but a flooded basement, I don't know if that's the addition. I don't know. I'm trusting that it's Mr. Chada Jimenez's house, but beyond that, there's not a lot of context. And maybe you're getting there and I'm just getting ahead of things. I'm happy to slow down, but you started with a flooded exercise room and I guess it's a basement.
And Your Honor, that is correct. Ordinarily, I think if I would have put my client first, it would have been a little more explanatory rather than just jumping into what it costs to fix and everything else. But the flooding was, in fact, in our complaint. It was referred to several times, and it was referred to in paragraph 1. It was referred to in paragraph 11, where we complain about the experienced flooding around the property and damage to the landscape and driveway.
Your Honor, to help speed this up, we'll stipulate that that is his basement.
Okay, I was worried less about is it in fact his basement as how we're connecting flooding to I didn't finish the work at the house.
I agree, but I'm saying just for purposes of this, we'll agree that that basement was flooded.
Okay.
And then also, Your Honor, per paragraph 15, we also complain about Mr. Ghouchani's design and defects causing issues with flooding in the property, specifically subparagraph R. Paragraph 26, we also complain about the same thing, that defendant's actions have resulted in flooding. And we'll go through the different areas that have flooded as a result of this.
Okay.
But we specifically reference the flooding. That was one of the.
Nope, I see it. I'm looking at the complaint now.
So we mentioned it. And as my client will testify, I'll just go ahead and proffer that he'll say that throughout this process, he complained to Mr. Ghouchani about, hey, there's flooding going on, there's leaks, there's everything else, and nothing was remedied, and unfortunately.
And he'll testify, your client will testify that this space we're looking at is part of the addition, or this was part of the house that existed before?
This was part of the house that was existed before.
Okay.
And you'll see flooding at the addition, as well as one of the problems that my client will testify about is that this addition is causing leaks and flooding in his existing house. And so we'll see videos and testimony about how now there's water damage going into the kitchen, for instance, that's seeping in from the addition, things of that nature.
Okay.
Going back in terms of Mr. Sari, you just mentioned that this thing can cause structural issues, this thing can cause problems with mold and so forth. In terms of possible ways to remedy these sort of flooding issues, what are some ways that this can be dealt with?
What comes to my mind, and based on the projects in the past that we had to deal with a similar issue, is essentially keeping the water from the structure by possibly regrading the driveway and installing multiple drains along the path of the water. One would be a significant large drain in front of the entrance to each garage to prevent the water from going inside of the structure. And then, of course, one probably at the end of the driveway, because the driveway goes down, one at the bottom at the end of the driveway, to not let the water sit on the pavers and the solid surface. So that way it essentially does not go inside of the structure and goes away from it.
I want to discuss cost for both of these remedial things. One is sort of the fixing the drainage you just discussed. Based on your experience, what would it cost to fix it?
To remove the existing driveway and to reinstall a new driveway, I would say probably between $40,000 to $60,000. The cost of the removal of the existing driveway and pouring a new concrete or paver, I would estimate probably $10,000 to $12,000.
Can you hold on 1 second? I interrupt you. This thing's talking. Am I supposed to have it on a certain channel? Should I say it? 10-4, Roger. Pardon? Let's get off this channel, please. Important court business occurring. Are we all on the same channel? I was told we're supposed to get instructions from you on this. And so far.
Everyone's on the same channel.
8D clear also, Roger, 10-4. 06 clear. I don't know if this is Gibson.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. The Niners lost. We're not going to talk about it unless you want numbers to go higher. Because of the cyber attack, this is one way we're supposed to be able to keep in touch with security.
You don't know what they were saying?
I could hear, I thought we were getting an echo from Mr. Haidari, and we weren't. It was whoever was talking. So is the volume up? I want to be able to hear if they're saying, you better get out of AD.
Yes, sir.
Shot is going nuts. Okay. All right. It's back in the holster. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I may proceed.
Yep. Can you repeat that figure? Did you say $40,000 to $60,000 for replacing the driveway?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And in addition to that, we would probably, at this point, after we remove the driveway, install the new drainage system. I would estimate $10,000 to $12,000 for a new set of drains, depending on what specifically needs to be done. I would have to consult with a civil engineer or an engineer of some sort to help with the water management, so that way the drains are properly placed. I'm sure there's a fee associated with that. And I would imagine the drains would need to be extensively throughout the back wall, backyard, and possibly the yard of the neighbor. So that way it spills the water as much as possible, spreads the water as much as possible. So there will be some cost associated with the landscaping repair, depending on what that looks like. It's difficult to price not knowing the entire scope of work in terms of the repairing of the landscape. I would say $4,000 to $6,000 of just simply repairing the landscaping work after everything has been dug and placed in.
And just for purposes of clarification, when you do a project, a renovation or an addition, is this water management something that you specifically design and contemplate at the outset of the project?
Yes, depending on the scope of the addition that's being built. For an addition this size, I would say for sure. Sometimes not all the additions you dig or at a lower level. Sometimes there's a crawl space. Sometimes they're built on pillars, so the water easily flows underneath it. So it's not necessary for every project, but it is something that needs to be thought about so that we catch it when it starts to rain, and especially if we are going lower, we're digging to go a little lower.
Perfect. You just discussed the cost of a drainage. Earlier, you also mentioned there's issues with remediation. You need to sort of cut the drywall, you make sure the boards are okay, mold removal, all that stuff. How much would it cost to do that?
So from what I saw, I would imagine at least $10,000 to $15,000 of just removing everything, the rental equipment of being there for multiple days, of really drying the air, drying the whatever is left behind, all of the damaged areas, because it's just not in the addition, it is in part of the existing home as well. So overall speaking, I would imagine $10,000 to $15,000 just to restore and get it cleaned up.
Did you have a chance to look at the original plans that were used for this project?
Not in detail, but I glanced at it as we were discussing. Mainly it came up as we were discussing the level of the floor of the garage, what it was on the plans, as it should have. What I saw on the plans, the original plan had the garage leveled by the floor of the entrance to the basement. But what we saw at the addition, it was the level of the garage was in the middle of the door of the basement. I didn't look at the other plans to see how many times it was amended or adjusted.
That's a pretty significant thing that I'd like you to elaborate a little more on that. The original plans had the door. Could you just tell the court again what you were just discussing?
So of course, when there's grading, we follow, there's a survey done on the property, and then of course there's a site plan put together, and of course the architects, based on those and based on the wants and needs of the homeowner, puts a plan together. So what I saw in the original plan had the garage floor leveled with the basement floor of the existing house. That's what I noticed. But I don't know exactly what happened. Some things may have happened during the excavation and of the property of the new addition, so that it ended up being significantly higher than what I saw on the original plan.
So based on the original plans, but previously, if you would have opened the door, you would have been below grade.
Walking through the garage directly. Right now, you're walking up to the garage.
Okay. And I'll have my client talk a little bit more about that when he gets up. I'm going to show you, and I'm just going through the folders, Your Honor, in terms of just different defects. And the next area I'm going to go into is the deck. And I'm going to show you some photographs of the deck and things that have been performed.
So a couple things for organizational purposes. One, you estimated, Mr. Hadari, that you needed a half day to present what you needed to. That's not going to happen. Two, it's going to be hard for me to keep track of the damages in this way you're approaching, but it may be that there is an organizational principle at the end where you tote up through whether it's your client or a spreadsheet. But Mr. Sari has already mentioned a figure to replace the driveway, for new drains, clean up the basement, and I'm jotting some of these numbers down. But I've also seen your exhibits are very organized by location and whatnot. If we're going through all those, you need to be a better estimator of time. But more important, because we'll find more time, it won't be today, but we'll get together again. You're going to need to have some summary exhibit that brings all this together, in part so Mr. Oldham can say, here's why these are overstatements or were already included or whatever he's entitled to do, but so that I have a figure that I can work with. And again, you may well have that. It sometimes helps to get that up front. And so then when I hear Mr. Sari say, you know what, you're going to need to put in new drains, I can say, oh, yep, there's new drains right there. So I don't mean to perform your job for you. You're going to do it, I'm sure, in an effective way. I'm just letting you know that I'm already feeling like I'm drowning in details and we're just getting started. You've done some overview. So.
And Your Honor, at the conclusion, I was going to go through all the numbers he's discussing, and basically you wouldn't have to take notes. I'd be able to go through the numbers.
I'm going to take notes anyway, but now I know I don't need to get too nervous because Mr. Sari is answering your questions, giving estimates here and there. But it sounds like before you would hand Mr. Sari over to Mr. Oldham, you would do some summary so he can work off that as well.
Sure, Your Honor.
Okay.
As far as time is concerned, you are correct, and I apologize for my estimate.
Okay, well, we're going to go till noon, maybe a little later than noon. And then we'll pick back up when we've got another window of time.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Because you had said a half day, and that's what I built in. Keep going.
So, looking at the deck. Can you tell what type of material that is on the deck?
It's some sort of composite. It's Trex, I would imagine. I don't specifically know the brand of it, but some sort of composite material.
Would you expect the insulation of the deck to look like this at this juncture?
It's usually common for a pressure-treated wood to look like this, but not commonly for a material similar to this.
If you wanted to go through and make sure that this was done proper, could you give a cost for that?
We would have to replace all of the boards that have turned and damaged, so they haven't been properly fastened. In this specific item, it's hard to price it, not knowing how many boards need to be replaced, and not knowing the cost of the material itself. If based on the previous decks that we have done, and if we're just replacing the boards, I would imagine probably $3,000 to $5,000 for labor and installation of replacing, but that's we would have to assess how many boards will need to be replaced, and of course the cost of the material itself.
As far as fixing these rails, do you notice any issues with these rails?
It seems they are not long enough and they have dropped from the top holding place, so they seem very loose. I think we would need to replace the spindles with slightly taller spindles to, of course, so that they're properly attached.
How much would it cost approximately to replace the spindles so that they would properly attach?
Similar to the last, but Probably with $1,000 to $2,000, just depending on how many of them need to be replaced a day of work. I believe it's sufficient.
Could you pull up P1? Based on your meeting with the homeowner, is it your understanding that the homeowner added certain fortifications to this decking?
Yes, the support system at the angle, I understood that was added afterwards.
And having done these type of renovations in the past, do you think having those 45-degree boards would be an important part of making sure that that decking is safe?
To answer your question, yes, of course, it adds additional support. Usually it's done during when we put the plan together. The plan is usually ran by a structural engineer, and they go through the plans and they make recommendations of set of LVL beams, how essentially the entire structure needs to be supported. We would have to reference the engineer who signed off on these plans to see what they have recommended.
And my client will actually testify how much you paid to add those beams in there, so you won't have to give an estimate for that. Moving on to the next section. Give me 1 second. Let's go to the garage and foundation issues, that folder. And Mr. Sari, I understand that you actually performed an estimate and gave an analysis of what you thought it would take to fix these things. And part of that was going through the assumptions that were laid forth in the complaint. Had you have a chance to go through the complaint in this lawsuit?
I did review it, yes. And of course, I discussed the entire scope of work with the homeowner. I did not provide a proposal to address every item individually because of some of them seemed so fundamental to the client, to your client, that I was asked to put a proposal together if we were to demolish and essentially rebuild it to the proper specs or to the way it needs to be done properly. So all of these issues do not include it. So yes, I did provide an overall proposal for that.
Did you perform an analysis based on what you've seen or discussed or whatnot, whether overall it would be cheaper to try to remediate, fix the things that aren't working, or remove and rebuild?
I did not. We operated under the assumption that it would be more costly to address all of these issues. So I just went straight into putting a proposal together for a complete tear down and rebuild.
Okay, so your proposal has the assumption baked in that it's cheaper to remove and rebuild.
Correct.
But that's because the client told you, look, let's just remove and rebuild.
The three main items that I took away from that was the water issue, how it was coming to the basement, the length of the garage for the RV, and then the height of the secondary garage for the other vehicle, and the placement of the 4 items, and the placement of the utility room in front of the garage.
Okay.
To redo all those 4 items, I believe I did not put a specific cost to it. I believe it would not make sense to spend all of that money to address those 4 issues. Based on our conversation, we believe it would make more sense to essentially rebuild.
Start all over.
Correct.
Okay.
Since we just hit a few areas, I'm actually going to jump to this particular garage. a second ago, when you were talking about the issue with the Sprinter garage, could you elaborate a little bit for the court as far as what you meant by that?
Sure. So this is the exact picture I was showing. Looking at this, we would have two options in order to address this specific issue. Either we extend the front of the garage, which I was told it's going to hinder the radius of turn if we go out further, because I believe there's a retaining wall in front of it at the end of the driveway. And on the back side, we do have some room, but there is a window that's coming out. So that would require some adjustment to that window as well in order to make it long enough so that this vehicle fits.
And here's a somewhat silly question for you, but if someone told you that they wanted to build a custom built garage for this specific vehicle and they gave you the measurements of that vehicle, would you plan that the garage would be slightly bigger to house that vehicle?
I would, yes, to answer your question, yes, just because it's not just the vehicle itself, it's getting in and out of the vehicle on the sides, on the back. So you tend to want it to be roomier than its specific measurements for comfort, especially if if you're asking us, if a client is paying us for a custom product, we tend to make sure it feels that way for them. So there's the level of comfort being built into it as well.
And I know as we go forward, we'll discuss that once we do the sort of piecemeal approach, it's not going to make sense. But let's say that we wanted to just break off the back of the garage and extend it a bit like you discussed as one possibility. How much would doing a renovation of that cost?
I believe about 30,000, because then we would have to essentially cut the back of the garage, install a new set of beams to support the structure on the back, pour foundation to move the wall back towards the back, and then of course put all the electrical and everything back together. And then not only that, we would have to make some adjustments on the roof above it as well, because for however many feet that we're extending it on the back side, we do have certain limitations because that third garage is on the back side and there is a window that's jutted out above it. We need 12 feet of clearance. So we may have to do some additional interior work where that window is located. So I don't have a price for the interior work that would need to be done after we remove that window to make the room.
One of your assumptions that we also went into this project is that there are foundational issues. If you wanted to go in there and basically, and again, I know this isn't what we're going to do, but if we're talking about just fixing the foundational issues, making sure that you remove the drywall, the beams are fortified and things of that nature, how much would that cost?
That's really hard to price. I wouldn't be able to give you a price on that. If we're referencing the foundational issues, having cracks in the foundation is common, but the thickness of the crack is the deciding factor. The second it gets more than half an inch, that does represent some sort of structural issue. How to address that, we would need to consult with the structural engineer that would tell us how it needs to be supported properly, whether we need to dig, put some sort of foam or something underneath it. I cannot put a price tag on that, not knowing the full extent of work, what needs to be done to the foundation.
Would you expect to see cracks that are half an inch at this juncture for this type of an addition to this?
It's uncommon for a new construction. Hairline cracks, even maybe a 1/4 inch cracks. We see that we do tons of basement projects and it's very common. You see that. The ground underneath settles and it creates some cracks. But the thicker cracks, more than half an inch, does indicate there could be some sort of structural issues.
Jumping into the HVAC unit. So as it stands now with the HVAC unit, if we look at, for instance, P45, P48, you can't even pull out the filter because there's just not enough clearance. And you discussed how the utility closet is this sort of a awkward place in terms of being, blocking the garage. If you wanted to move this utility closet elsewhere, where could you do so? And could you give the court a little bit about your opinion on that?
It's a fairly difficult task to move the unit itself because there is so much that's connected to it. Especially if it's a furnace, there's gas lines, there's tons of ducts that are connected to it. So the first question is, where does it get relocated to? And based on its new location, we need to find a path to redirect all of the ducts, which requires the removal of all the drywall, finding a path. So it's a fairly labor intensive task to find a new location. And after it's found, how do we move the unit? Along with the unit, you have to move the electrical, gas, and everything else that's associated with it. So when we know its new place, we'll have a better understanding of how to price it. But similar projects where we had to move it in the unfinished spaces, the cost of moving the units could be between $4,000 to $6,000, for example, in an unfinished basement where you have access to everything. But when it's finished, it's a different ballgame because it's a domino effect. You move one thing and then you have to repair a lot of other things after it.
Well, when you examined the property, did you see any place within the existing space that would make sense to move it into, or do you think you'd have to create something new?
I didn't do a full detail walkthrough to assess every room. For example, if we can steal away from a corner of a bedroom and create a utility closet, I don't know. It does seem more straightforward to create maybe a shed of a utility room behind the utility room that's in the garage, so that way the garage clears and put it. But for the second, this is on the second floor. I don't have I did not come up with a location for this unit.
If you wanted to do what you just suggested, though, which is basically create a little unit behind this garage, could you tell the court how much it would cost to do that sort of thing?
The unit itself, probably not huge, 4x4, 5x5 at most. I would say 15 to 20,000, just foundation, walls, roof, build that. And in addition to that, moving the units over there, all the gas lines. In that specific utility room that's on the main floor, on the garage, I noticed a lot of gas lines behind it. So all of those would need to be relocated, the electrical panel, probably another $10,000 to $12,000 just to move the utilities over into that dedicated utility room.
Is there a picture you have that shows the garage door up looking into the garage with this utility closet? Because the only picture I've seen so far, I don't understand what anyone was thinking. It's not of taking the picture, but just the layout is it's frankly bizarre. If you're in the garage looking out of the garage, it looks like the garage is full of the utility closet, but maybe the garage is gigantic and you actually can park 3 cars on beyond the utility closet. But there was a photo where if I'm looking out the garage towards what I assume is the driveway, to my left, inside the garage is this utility closet.
That was a video.
Well, you're right. I guess it was a video, but it was, I'd love to see in the garage from that garage door open. And if there's not such a photo, don't worry about it. I'm still, as there's this discussion of utility closets and moving things, trying to wrap my mind around what one sees in the garage. Presumably it's not the garage that has the little Sprinter van in it, because that looks like that was just for that. But there's this garage with what looks like a building in the middle of the garage.
It was a closet, a utility closet. It's just storage. It's a storage place in the back of the garage, Judge.
Okay.
And
so there's the video.
Right.
We don't have a photo looking in, but that is, exactly the issue that my client's going to testify about.
Oh, but I see. If you look across and to the left, I guess there's ductwork and whatnot. There are cars that could park in.
Your Honor, what we'll stipulate here is that this is a video of a utility room that is to the side of the part of the garage where the Sprinter van is.
Okay.
It's basically was put in there to be able to pull motorcycles and utility vehicles.
Okay.
There. It's a storage unit. It just has a garage door on it.
Got it.
So
Okay.
You're talking about main garage, Sprinter garage, utility. Thing.
That-
And you can see right there at the corner, you went out, you go right around the side of the house to the main
Okay.
driveway.
So it's a garage in the sense that it has a garage door, but it wasn't meant to hold a passenger vehicle, maybe a motorcycle or a jet ski or
See
something.
how they got an appliance.
I saw that. I was similarly confused. Okay,
That's it.
got it. Cleared it up.
And just to clarify the numbers you were specifying, Mr. Sayari, you mentioned that the foundation, if you're making a little build out to move that thing, that would be between 15 to 20,000. Moving the utilities over was going to be between 10 and 12,000. And in terms of moving the HVAC and the gas and everything else, how much did you say that was?
That the 10 to 12 was for the moving of the utility, which would include the HVAC unit, the gas lines, and the electricity.
Got it. Could you go to or I'm going to show you a little bit about just the general leaking and issues around the windows and so forth.
What exhibit number is this?
This is P 59.
59.
And Sari, if you don't mind just going through the rest of those in this folder.
These are under that folder of.
Large windows leaking and rotting.
Okay, gotcha.
Do you notice any issues with these windows?
The main issue is water leaking around the window.
So in terms of the leaking issues, I want to talk about two parts. Number one, what do you think is causing the leaking? And then I'll go to my next question yet.
Usually it's improper installation of the window, and mainly the cause is lack of flashing and the waterproofing tape that goes around each window. That's what usually causes the leak around windows.
So Mr. Haidari, he's already gone. But if I were to ask Mr. Enriquez if he installed those windows, what would he say?
I would say he was saying no.
Okay, what windows did he install?
I'll get into doors.
Just to make it, so we would agree he didn't install the windows. He installed the interior trim, casing, baseboard, doors.
Got it. Okay, I just remember him saying something about windows, and then here's,
See at the stage of completion here that this is still when we were on the project.
that's what it looked like. Okay, got it. Okay,
You're maybe off with that.
So maybe a year after I was gone.
okay, but
The trim is installed for
these aren't windows, Mr. Enriquez. It sounds like everyone agrees they're not Enriquez windows.
Correct.
Okay,
We would agree with that. It's just the only question we have is about the date. when
Yep.
this was, so.
Okay.
I've got other videos in the folder. That was. In terms of repairing the issues with the leaking that you saw,
how much would it cost to fix those issues?
Everything.
Yes.
So the main thing the videos that I was shown, for what I was told was the disconnection of the roof of the new addition to the existing house, which was causing the significant water coming from the ceiling, in the bathroom, in the kitchen area, in the foyer entrance area. That I estimated, that's included in the proposal, I believe, about $79,000, which includes the total rebuilding of the bathroom, not knowing the extent of damage that's underneath everything, and same thing with the kitchen, kind of removing everything, addressing all of the issues, and putting it back together.
And is this a copy of your estimate right here on the screen?
Yes, this is what I have estimated for the interior water damage on the existing side of the house.
And just to clarify for the court, there's really two parts here that we're dealing with. One is sort of fixing the new addition and doing that, and the other is fixing the water damage that's happening to the existing house.
Correct.
And so the $79,000 is to fix the water damage happening to the existing house.
Correct, mainly the kitchen, the bathroom, repairing of the basement water damage, and the foyer area water damage.
The water damage of the existing.
We're going to the existing house water damage.
Yeah, let's go through that. Let's go through your estimate for a second.
The estimate.
Or actually, no, you can show those photos. Before we go to the estimate, let's go through those photos so that we can just show the court some of the water damage that we're talking about.
The right material.
Framing in the bathroom again. There's water everywhere. Let's go check the basement.
Is that a giant TV in the bathroom? That's weird. Okay.
Too late then.
Could you play that video again?
Yes, sir.
And I just wanted to highlight that not only do we have the issues of the water coming in from the flooding, but also falling from the ceiling as well.
Going on the floor too.
So, Mr. Haddadi, this looks like a kitchen. Is this a kitchen in the addition? So it's a bonus kitchen, or this is a kitchen in the original house? And so this is getting to this area you were describing where addition and house meet, and that intersection has yielded leaking that didn't used to occur.
That's precisely the case, the latter. This is the existing kitchen, and this is leaking that didn't used to occur.
Okay, and we'll hear about that from your client, but this space we see here is pre-Ghouchani space.
This is pre-Ghouchani space, and there was no leaking prior to Ghouchani.
Okay.
I don't think you understand. Everything is going to flood. That's the
kitchen. It's only been about 20 minutes and started raining. It's gonna rain all day. That's all gonna go into the basement. So it's coming from up there. It's coming from up there and then dripping right into the windows, but it's not coming in the bathroom this time. Everything's pulling right in the window. That's what everything's gone in. And it's still going everywhere. So whatever cricket did it, and then it's going into the attic.
In the interest of time, could you skip
All
to
there.
photos 172 and then let's look at 180 as well. Could you jump to Mr. Sayari's estimate now for this renovation? And if you don't mind, Mr. Sayari, could you just elaborate to the court what it would take to do this sort of remediation to the existing house to fix the leaking that's happening?
Walk you through the process?
Yes, or walk through your estimated process.
Sure. The initial approach would be to essentially remove everything that has been water damaged, includes the drywall, insulation.
This, what we're about to talk about, is not your plan of take away everything that was added and rebuild. This is remediation instead?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This is part of the existing house. It has nothing to do with the.
Oh, this is remediate damage within the existing house. Okay.
This includes the bathroom, the kitchen, the basement in the existing part of the house. And yes, those are the three main areas.
Okay.
So we would have to, so if we were to hire to approach this project, remove everything that's been water damaged. And then I would partner with the mold remediation company to come and assess the extent of the dampness, moisture in all of the walls that we're about to cover again. That will have a price tag of its own, depending on what the finding is. There may be not any mold, there may be ton, especially underneath the plywood, underneath the tiles in the bathroom. So, and then of course we would go in there and.
Before you go forward, in terms of your experience, let's say that there's very little mold, what would the price tag of that be? But let's say that there's a lot of mold, what would the price tag of that be for the remediation?
I would say $2,000 to $4,000 just to get rid of the mold, treat it. It's not rocket science per se. It's drying everything, make sure everything is treated with bleach, like getting everything dried so that, because as you know, mold grows, so that way we can put a stop to the growth of any mold that may exist underneath all these water damaged areas.
Okay.
And then afterwards, we would essentially partner with the client to put the bathroom, the kitchen back together. I did omit one type of flooring, not knowing the extent of the flooring because the front part seems to be under renovation. So I didn't include redoing all of the flooring, but just mainly the kitchen, the foyer area. But of course, depending on the extent of the damage, we may have to do more flooring work than what I have estimated.
And if there was, let's just say, more damage, how would that increase the estimate?
In terms of the cost?
Yes.
It's hard to say, not knowing exactly what that specific damage is. But I do feel comfortable with this proposal to put the kitchen together as is, the bathroom as is, and put the basement together as the gym it was before.
Okay, thank you. earlier you also described certain issues with basically the steam shower. Could you tell the court what the issues were and what's going on with that?
Sure, we went to the second floor. Client showed the master bathroom to us. It's a fairly long, I would say 6 to 8 feet long shower with a full glass enclosure with a bench at one corner. The steam dispenser, that black unit that the steam is coming out, is sitting directly where you will be sitting. So as you know, hot steam is coming out of that. So it makes it, I would imagine, unbearable to sit next to it as the steam is directly coming out of it. If we were to design it, we would move it adequately away from the sitting area. So that way, for the comfort of the person that's sitting there, you're not burning your leg.
And in terms of a cost to, I guess, move that steam unit or whatnot, or fix the issue?
I would say between $6,000 to $8,000, not knowing what's behind it. So we have to remove at least the bottom portion of the tiles so that we can redirect the pipe that is attached to that steam unit. I don't love doing that because the floor of the shower is waterproofed, and usually about 6 to 8 inches. There's a plastic liner that comes up to help waterproof. The second, and not only that, the durock that's behind the tile, it's waterproofed itself. The second you break that seal, although it can be repaired, you are opening yourself up for possible future leaks because now you're breaking that, the plastic barrier that's a waterproofed membrane that's underneath this, that's essentially does the most of the work from preventing the shower from leaking. So usually in cases like that, I would recommend the clients to rebuild the entire bottom half or complete rebuild of the shower. It's not necessary, but to protect our work from future having to constantly go back and address leaks, I would recommend rebuilding it. One of the more pricier items would be the redoing of the glass door, because the second you adjust the tiles, that glass door is so perfect when it's cut, even 1/8 of an inch could not let the glass door sit. So we may have to order a new glass door as well. To rebuild this shower completely with all of its bells and whistles, maybe $12,000 to $15,000 just by itself. There could be a lesser expensive option of just removing the bottom half and doing some meticulous work of just redirecting the steam dispenser.
In terms of the stairs, we talked a little bit about how the stairs were not uniform. If you wanted to go back and try to fix that issue, is that something that could be done, and how much would that cost?
That's fairly complex because you can't just adjust one step. Everything, the entire floor of the basement all the way to the top needs to be adjusted properly, because what we've looked at is the top of the step, that's the shortest one. So we would have to redo the entire staircase, reduce from each step slightly to bring that top step as close as possible to what the code requires, around that 7 1/4 to 7 3/4 of an inch. It's more labor intensive than anything. Rebuilding a staircase by itself, all new hardwood, we're looking about $3,000 to $4,000. The actual framing work that's going to require to adjust all of the spacing, it's a matter of how many days we have to put in there. I would say probably between $2,000 to $4,000 just for the labor. And it's not only that, because after you remove everything, you have to repair all of the walls that are around it. You have to repaint everything. You have to stain the newly installed stair treads. It's again goes back to a very domino effect. You touch one thing, you have to do a lot of other repair work that's associated with that one item.
And could you give a range as far as, if we are doing all this with a domino effect, how much would it cost if we just wanted to fix the stairs?
So $3,000 to $5,000 for the stairs itself, $2,000 to $4,000 for the time spent to adjust it, and then I would probably say $1,000 to $2,000 for all of the touch-up repair work that's required around the staircase. hopefully that's feasible. But that's the tricky part of this particular item, being able to reduce all of the other steps to make up for the way it's set up right now.
And if it's not feasible because you lack the space, then what kind of solutions would you come up with?
So I would raise the top one. So from the existing part coming to the addition, there would be a step going into the addition. So that way it adjusts all of the stairs properly, but the addition is no longer in line with the existing part of the house. It would be one step higher, or whatever that difference is.
Is it fair to say that in the planning phase, these are things that should have been thought about and contemplated?
Usually, yes. Almost always, correct.
I'm gonna actually jump in through your estimate as far as the rebuild is concerned. And I wanted to talk a little bit about why it would make sense at this juncture. Well, let me rephrase that. So right now, we just talked about a few issues, and we have more that we're gonna go through, but just in the interest of time, I'm gonna sort of try to circumvent the things that I think that my client can talk about that you don't need to talk about. But as we were talking about things in the court, we talked about fixing, for instance, foundation issue, fixing, for instance, drainage issue, fixing the stairs, fixing the seam shower, all these things. Would you suggest that if my client is trying to basically make himself whole, he should take this piecemeal approach, or would you suggest that he should basically scrap it, and why?
In my opinion, because of, if it was my house, I would personally want it done right, so that way I can enjoy it and take pride in it. So that's why I suggested the rebuild, because if I were to piecemeal it, just personally, in my opinion, if I was to piecemeal it, I still have this bitter taste left in my mouth because of all the issues that has happened. And I also have the constant worry of what if it presents itself again, if it's not addressed properly, depending on who addresses it. That's, of course, we're talking about significant amount of money. It's not chump change, but I know that's what my personal opinion, I would do it that way. But that's not to say our company or many other companies cannot come in and address everything that has been cause for concern at a price tag, which depends on how much you want to fix each of those items.
In fact, in your estimate, I believe in the bottom, we actually go through and we go through certain assumptions that we had in our remediation, things that need to be addressed.
Backward.
Yes.
Mano, señor.
And
Mano, señor. You can watch.
thank you. And Your Honor, these portions are taken directly from the complaint. These were the assumptions in terms of what it was going to take to fix and the issues that need to be fixed. And just to try to save some time, I'm going to go through this list with Mr. Sari. Quickly, we've discussed a few things already, but I just want to go through this. If we want to repair any of the drywall, could you give a range as far as how much it would cost to repair drywall in terms of this project?
Drywall in the addition?
Yes, in addition.
It's really, I have not itemized it, and I don't have that, so I don't want to just say any number, to be honest with you.
Sure.
On the addition side, the main drywall that would need to be removed and repaired is just the bottom half where it's been damaged to due to the flood. I wouldn't imagine anything up high would need to be replaced, just speaking on the addition side. It would need to be patched and repaired if we do any of the shifting of the HVAC or anything that's utility-wise that's behind the wall that needs to be relocated. So that drywall repair would fall into the scope of the overall drywall repair.
Could you give a range for that drywall repair and how much that would cost?
It's difficult to do that. I have not priced that out.
That's fine.
I've mainly priced out the full rebuild of the construction based on the square footage of the addition.
In terms of trying to raise the garage so that the Sprinter van can have clearance, you talked about there's two possibilities. One is changing the header, and the other is actually raising the garage.
That's the smaller garage you're referring to, right?
Could
Do you have pictures of that? We saw lots of pictures of the van not fitting in lengthwise. Are there pictures of whatever garage is supposedly too low?
Yes, we should have that somewhere.
What I noticed that.
I believe the Sprinter van is parked in the garage that's too low. That's in the other one, okay, yes.
What was shown to me, it was two pictures. One that clears the header that's inside of the garage. It's a metal beam, but the entrance to the garage seems to be slightly lower. So inside of the garage seemed high enough, but to go through the garage door to inside of the garage, that was the challenging. So in order to fix that to your original question, I don't know what size header is currently used at the entrance of that garage. We would have to consult with an engineer to reduce the size of that header so we can gain a little more height from the entrance of the garage. So there's a cost associated with rebuilding of that. The second that is done, we will need a new garage door as well. So because the existing garage door wouldn't, I would imagine, not work because we're changing its height. So that would be the extent of work that's required. In terms of dollars, I would say $2,000 to $4,000 for a new header to put above the garage. I do not know the price of, they have very custom garage doors. I don't know the price of the garage door that they would need to replace this existing one with.
Could you provide a range of what it could cost?
Garage doors anywhere from $4,000 and up, to be honest. It depends.
And in terms of the header and sort of the beams we're talking about, I have a photo on here. Is this what we're referring to?
Yes, this is the picture that I saw, that it does clear underneath this. The car does. I believe the issue is how to enter the garage because the door hangs slightly lower.
And as far as the other garage we talked about, trying to lift it up, how much would the cost of that be?
The other garage, we have to extend it. Is that what you?
Yes.
Yes. So the extension of that, similar setup to the addition of the utility room, I would say about 20,000. Same thing, we have to extend the foundation, build a wall, another roof above it. It would be less costly to extend from the front, but I'm not sure how it would impact the radius of turning the car because the opening already exists rather than in the back where we have to build a new opening.
Source of the leaks are from the roof. How much is it going to cost to repair those?
Say that again?
If the source of the leaks are from the roof of the new addition, basically joining to the existing, how much will it cost to fix that, the roofing issues?
Or the second proposal for the 77,000, because those, I based that proposal based on the water that was coming from the roof.
Just making sure. Perfect. I'm gonna go jump to your proposal, which was P89. And this was to basically redo it and redo it properly.
P89 is the remediation.
Yeah.
For the addition.
Well, maybe it's a different P80. Your first P89 was the $77,000 estimate to remediate the damage to the existing house. Maybe I got my numbers wrong. It looks like that's 90. Okay.
Yes, Your Honor, I believe.
My mistake. So P89 is the, let's do it all over again.
Let's do it proper.
Okay.
And I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I do want you to run through the process in terms of doing it right, how it should be done and what this entails.
So I didn't have a ton of time to dig very deep into the details of the plan to provide a very detailed proposal based on the plans that were originally crafted. Because of the time constraint, I based it based on the square footage of the addition and referenced it based on all the additions that we have built. For us, a range is between $100 to $140 per square feet to build an addition, depending on its complexity and tons of details that goes into it. Some less expensive, some more expensive. The price that I have provided based on the details that I saw, it reflects $120 per square feet to build an addition based on the square footage that was on stated on the plans.
And that 120 per square foot includes demolition costs also, or that's a separate line item?
That is a separate. I did not account for the, well, I actually did account for the complete demolition because I was thinking we were going to do about 105, 110, and I added 120 for the comfort of demolishing the entire house and rebuilding it.
So the figure at the bottom of plaintiff's 89, I think it was 440,000, but you'll get there. That is to demolish and rebuild, which gets you to that 120 per square feet.
Yes, sir.
Square foot. Okay.
And just to briefly run through all these line items, we don't have to go through them in detail, but this includes getting the foundation done properly, structural engineer. Could you just elaborate?
It does. The only thing that does not include is, which I'm sure you guys already have, that the survey of the property, the site plan, and all the details that maybe we need to revisit because of all these water management issues. So we may have to spend some time on that aspect of it. So that way the elevation of the new addition may need to be adjusted higher or lower, depending on the feedback of an engineer. So that line item will need to be figured into what needs to be done.
I have another miscellaneous question for you. In terms of my client paid the builder $282,000 for this addition. Do you think would you be satisfied turning that addition over to a client?
My understanding is that he left without the project being completed. I think regardless of the cost of the project, as a contractor, I'm obligated to make sure when I walk away from a project, a client is fully satisfied. The reason is I want to have my conscience clear when I'm walking away from a project, knowing that something that I have or may have done has caused pain for a client. It does not sit well with me. So therefore, I want to do everything within my power to make it right for that client. I have not been involved in all the details of how long they've been talking and everything that's been happening. So if you're simply asking what I would have done, regardless of the dollar amount that is attached to anything, I would have walked away at least knowing that this flood issue and everything has been resolved. That's my personal opinion. But
fair enough. And just again, I guess my last question to ask you in terms of doing this project, if you wanted to scrap it and do it proper, you think it would cost $440,000?
Yes, roughly.
And just for the record, P89 and P90, those are your invoices that you prepared for the scope of.
Those are the estimates that we've provided.
The estimates. And Your Honor, I would move to admit the P89 and P90.
Any objection, Mr. Oldham, to the admission of plaintiffs 89 and 90 for purposes of this hearing?
No objection.
Okay, they're admitted.
And no further questions for this witness.
All right, well, this is a natural break point. We're at about 12:10. And I'm sorry, Mr. Sari, but I'm gonna need you to come back. We don't know what that date's gonna be yet, and we'll work with your schedule, but Mr. Oldham needs to have an opportunity to ask you questions. I'm assuming you've got questions. If there's no cross,
I don't think I have any. I'm kidding.
okay, so we will need to set another time for us to wrap up your testimony, but I'll make sure Mr. Haidari works with your schedule so it's not too disruptive. I don't know when that date will be, but you'll be the first witness up. It will be part 2 of the examination. Mr. Oldham's going to ask you questions from his client's perspective, and then there may be some follow-up from Mr. Haidari, and then you'll be out of here, okay? Thanks for your time.
Of course, thank you.
And Your Honor, I'm going to apologize for my estimate. Sorry.
It's all right. This case has a way of expanding. So Ms. Niles will reach out to both you and Mr. Oldham to check your schedules and ask both of you, having gotten through one morning's worth, how much time you think you need to put up the rest of your case. What do you have? Mr. Sari needs to be cross-examined. There may be a little redirect. What's left on plaintiff's side?
The plaintiff himself.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Then that'll help Mr. Oldham think about what he's going to put up in his, knowing that there's 1.5 witnesses left, and then we will have gotten through everything. Mr. Oldham, anything we need to discuss before we break for the day?
No, Your Honor, just for the record, I never was able to make an announcement because of time. So I mean,
Got it.
I'm good. I'll make an announcement. It should be.
Okay, well, Ms. Niles is going to reach out and.
No, we're totally good. I'm not complaining. I'm just letting you know that I didn't think this was going to just be a half a day.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Got it.
I knew, but I'm happy to, we'll just take it up. We'll take it up. I'll
Yep.
let you know what that's.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Judge, thank you for your time.